프리급 스튜디오 라이브 ASL에 오신 것을 환영합니다.
나의 레벨은 다르다. 어나더 레벨 하시크와 함께하는 ASL 시즌 13 24강 마지막 F조 경기로 인사드립니다. 안녕하세요. 이현경입니다. 치열했던 24강도 어느덧 마지막 F조 경기만을 남겨두고 있습니다. 자, 이제 오늘 경기는 ASL 초창기부터 봐주셨던 팬분들이라면 추억에 잠기실 수 있는 선수들로 구성되어 있는데요. 4명의 선수들과 함께 이야기 나눠보겠습니다. 안녕하세요. 네, 먼저 김민철 선수와 인사 나눠보겠습니다. 안녕하세요.
안녕하세요.
네, 지난 시즌 굉장히 좋은 기세를 이어가고 있었는데 8강 김명훈 선수에게 발목이 잡히셨던 기억 아직까지 하고 계실 것 같습니다. 기억하시죠?
네, 기억나요.
워낙 좀 아픔이 있었던 김명훈 선수이기 때문에 저저전 좀 극복하고 싶을 시즌이 또 이번 시즌이 아닐까 싶어요. 어떠세요?
극복하는 것도 좋지만 제일 좋은 거는 안 만나는 게 제일 좋은 것 같아요. 저번 시즌 느꼈는데 객기였구나. 이번에는 안 만났으면 좋겠어요.
그래도 예선에서 또 이혜훈 선수를 상대로 승리를 거두고 본선에 올라오셨잖아요. 많은 분들이 극복된 것 같은데? 라는 이야기들도 있었어요.
그 정도까지는 아니고요. 저도 약간 제 저저전은 약간 어중전은 좀 이기거든요. 그래가지고 좀 강한 상대들이랑 만나면 좀 힘들더라고요.
당분간은 높이 올라갈 때까지 강한 쪽은 피하는 게 좀 영리한 선택인 것 같다. 네, 알겠습니다. 진영화 선수와도 인사를 나눠보겠습니다. 안녕하세요.
안녕하세요.
오늘 같은 조에 속해 있던 선수들이 사실 상대전적으로는 다소 조금 진영화 선수를 어렵게 만들었던 선수들이 포진해 있습니다. 그만큼 많은 준비를 해오셨을 거라는 생각이 드는데 어떠신가요, 오늘 경기?
최선을 다해서 준비를 하긴 했는데 열심히 했으니까 결과가 잘 나왔으면 좋겠습니다.
눈빛에서 총기가 좀 느껴져서 오늘 진영화 선수 많은 분들이 기대하고 계실 것 같은데 윤찬희 선수와도 이야기를 나눠보겠습니다. 안녕하세요.
안녕하세요.
윤찬희 선수도 대국민 스타리그를 제외하면 한 번을 딱 제외하고 모든 시즌에 출전하고 있는 만큼 꾸준한 선수예요.
네.
그만큼 여러 번의 24강 경기를 치러 오셨던 윤찬희 선수인데
네.
오늘 F조 편성은 윤찬희 선수 개인적으로는 어떤 느낌이신지?
제가 꾸준히 못 해왔었어서 24강이나 16강에 머물렀었던 것 같거든요. 항상 도전해서 그걸 깨려고 하는데 이번 조 역시 좀 쉽지 않습니다. 근데 이제 다를 때보다 이제 준비를 좀 많이 했어요, 이번에. 그래서 꼭 뭔가 이 조를 극복한다면 다음에 이제 16강, 8강 올라가더라도 되게 약간 올라갈 수 있지 않을까 생각이 듭니다.
또 16강 진출이 간절할 또 한 명의 선수죠. 오랜만에 경기장에서 밟는 이재동 선수입니다. 안녕하세요.
안녕하세요.
정말 많은 분들이 기다리셨을 폭군 이재동 선수인데요. 최근 기세도 워낙 좋고 예선에서의 경기력도 너무 좋았어서 이재동 선수 많은 분들의 기대를 한 몸에 좀 받고 계십니다. 느껴지시나요?
너무 오랜만에 ASL 복귀라서 저도 그런 부분에 많이 신경 쓰고 있고 팬들이 많이 응원해주고 있다는 거 알고 있기 때문에 잘하고 싶습니다.
특히 이번 시즌 지금 24강 경기를 이재동 선수 쭉 지켜보셨을 텐데 분재동이라고 불리는 김경모 선수, 또 짭재동이라 불리는 박상현 선수 지금 다 16강에 올라와 있습니다. 지켜보셨나요? 두 선수들의 경기력을?
네, 다 봤고 특히 경모 형이 굉장히 멋있게 잘 올라가더라고요. 그래서 거기서 자극을 많이 받아가지고 그래서 연습도 굉장히 열심히 했습니다.
제동 트리오를 16강에서 모두 지켜볼 수 있을지도 많은 분들이 기대하고 계시는데요. 지금부터는 팬 여러분들의 질문을 전달해 드리겠습니다. 먼저 김민철 선수. 지난 시즌까지는 사회복무요원 활동도 병행을 하셨는데 오히려 규칙적인 생활이 가능해서 좋다 이런 말씀을 하셨어요. 지금은 소집 해제가 되신 후라서 아직까지 규칙적인 생활 잘 유지하고 계시는지도 물어봐 주셨어요.
전혀요. 그냥 이제는 오히려 이제 아침에 안 일어나도 되니까 맨날 늦게 자고 늦게 일어나고 하는데 확실히 몸은 편안하니까 요즘 또 게임은 좀 잘 되더라고요.
생활 습관과는 크게 관련이 없었던 거네요, 경기력은 그러면.
네, 습관은 의미가 없었던 걸로 그런 것
알겠습니다.
같아요.
네, 진영화 선수와도 좀 이야기를 나눠보겠습니다. 팬분들이 이런 질문을 해주셨어요. 최근 ASL 준비하면서 다른 게임들도 다 삭제하고 인스타의 진심인 스진남 모드로 경기를 준비하셨다라는 공지를 작성하셨다고 들었습니다. 그만큼 좀 16강에 어느 정도의 자신감을 가지고 계실지.
일단은 지금 뭐 제가 이제 바스포드 들어가서 이제 감스트 이사장님이랑 뭐 다른 이제 팀원들이 다 너무 응원을 열심히 해줘가지고 제가 거기 보답을 하고 싶은 마음이 너무 크더라고요. 그래서 진짜 좀 제대로 좀 준비를 하긴 했습니다.
오, 알겠습니다. 윤찬희 선수에게도 이런 질문이 올라왔습니다. 최근 개인 방송에서의 예능감뿐만 아니라 실력적으로도 최고의 주가를 올리고 있어서 F조에 대한 자신감 누구보다 충만하실 것 같다라는 팬분들의 의견인데요. 한마디로 자신감을 좀 표현해 주신다면 어느 정도일까요?
사실 근데 제가 최근에 뭐 이렇게 뭐 실력이 올랐다고 하는데 이건 좀 약간 고평가된 것 같고, 이제 아무래도 요즘 그 대학 콘텐츠 하면서 이제 그 NSU 이제 대학에서 모든 이제 이사장님과 이 모든 분들이 이제 좀 이렇게 마음의 안정이 될 수 있게끔 많이 도와주다 보니까 이제 게임을 편하게 하면서 이제 저를 이제 좀 더 이제 경기력이 나온 것 같아요.
네.
그런 부분에서. 그래서 오늘은 완전 편하거든요. 그래서 한번 뽐내 보겠습니다 오늘. 네, 오늘 한번
딱 한마디로 표현해 주신다면 그래서
한마디로
어떤 강력한 한마디가 있을까요?
제가 사실 뭐 이렇게 먹는 거 주제로만 그 질문을 받아와서 이렇게 강력한 한마디라고 하니까 예, 뭐 딱히 생각나는 건 없지만 열심히 한번 불태워 볼게요.
네.
예.
편안하다 한마디면 사실 강력한 한마디가 될 것 같은데요.
네네네.
자, 마지막 이재동 선수에게도 질문 드리겠습니다. 이재동 선수 입대하기 전과 전역한 후에 게임 내 외적으로 적응을 굉장히 잘하고 계시는 것 같다는 시청자분들의 평가가 있었는데요. 최근 뭐 대학 콘텐츠에도 속해 계시고 이런 부분들이 잘 너무 좋아 보이지만 그래도 좀 적응하기 힘들었던 부분, 어떤 부분이 있으셨을지도 궁금해하시더라고요.
그냥 좀 게임할 수 있는 사람이 많이 없더라고요. 그게 좀 지금도 좀 아쉽고, 아무래도 그 이제 다 가르치는 데 집중을 많이 하다 보니까 저는 좀 많이 게임을 많이 하는 스타일인데 할 수 있는 상대가 많이 없어서 그런 부분이 좀 아직도 적응이 안 되긴 해요.
ASL에서 더 높은 곳에 계속해서 쭉쭉 올라가신다면 아마 연습 상대가 또 많이 들어오지 않을까라는 생각이 드는데요. 마지막으로 네 분께 각오를 청해 듣도록 하겠습니다. 이재동 선수부터 한 말씀 해주실까요?
오늘 무조건 올라가겠습니다.
네, 기대하겠습니다. 윤찬희 선수.
오늘 다 씹어 먹겠습니다.
좋습니다. 네, 진영아 선수.
저도 한번 열심히 해서 올라가 보겠습니다.
네, 마지막 김민철 선수의 한 말씀 들어보겠습니다.
네, 오늘 저도 기대하시는 만큼 꼭 올라가도록 하겠습니다.
네 분의 마지막 24강 멋진 피날레를 기대하도록 하겠습니다. 인터뷰 고맙습니다. 자, 이제 남은 16강의 자리는 단 2자리입니다. F조 경기를 통해 과연 어떤 2명의 선수가 16강에 올라갈 수 있을지 ASL 시즌 13 24강 F조 경기를 통해 확인해 보시죠.
ASL 시즌 13 언리미티드.
What's up, everybody? We're ready now for the final day in the round of 24. This is Group F. And, man, Tastosis, I gotta tell you, dude, it was kind of like when you wake up and you forget that it's Christmas for just a second, and then you remember that Santa brought all the presents and you run out. That was me this morning. I'm super hyped to be casting Jaedong here today.
Yeah, that's the most exciting thing this season. I mean, I know Rain is back, I know Bisu is back, and those are both very exciting, but Jaedong's been in the military. He is back now. This guy has already been up to the top of the ladder. It seems like he's in good shape from the games that I've seen. Obviously, here he is in the ASL round of 24, so he's obviously very good. But are we going to see championship-level Jaedong? Is he going to smash this group? I think he might.
I think so. I think this is probably, if you count Jaedong out, one of the weaker groups in the ASL. So the odds of him moving on, obviously very high. Before we get any further along here, guys, thank you, Patreon supporters. If you are not supporting us yet, you can go to patreon.com/ASL English. We appreciate the fact that we are able, through that, to still keep casting these games and keep the history of Brood War alive in English.
Now, you can take a look at the racial distribution. Pretty balanced, pretty good looking right now. I think there's a very good chance that SoulKey and Jaedong get out and bring us to 7 Zergs total. I think that Movie does not have a chance to get out of here, and Mong, I think Mong does have a chance. I think it's possible. He's gotten a lot better in the matchup. So we'll see how he does against Jaedong in that first match. That's going to be really important for it. But yeah, it's a fun group no matter how you cut it.
For sure. I do want to point out SoulKey is a real threat in ZVZ. He's got a really good understanding of that matchup, really good strategies that he can execute there. So I think it's extremely important that Jaedong either avoids SoulKey or is very good at ZVT and ZVP today. You know, But look, I think there's a high chance that Jaedong moves on.
Yeah, no, I actually would favor him against SoulKey. Just, you know,
oh, yeah?
Remember, it used to be called JVZ because Jaedong was so much better than everyone at Zerg vs. Zerg. So, you know, I have faith in him in that regard. I have faith in him overall. But I could see Mong maybe, you know, standing up against him. Mong is like a really good macro player. So, if you don't get ahead of him somehow, he might be able to just, like, bludgeon his way through at that point.
Yeah, you know, Mong... excuse me, I'm a little congested today. Mong is, you know, he's got a pretty solid approach to, you know, all the matchups overall as well. I kind of wasn't thinking about him as much because I've been so kind of Jaedong-centric in my whole thought process for this tournament. If you've been watching all the casts, you've probably heard me talking about Jaedong a lot here. But Mong is definitely somebody who could take on anybody in this group as well. I think it's fair to say Movie is probably the weakest player. I think he's still very good, but compared to the rest of the guys, he's probably bottom tier.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think anyone would really argue with you there. Now, taking a look here, SoulKey, of course, in this first match. SoulKey, I think, is still one of the very best Zergs in the world. Like, I was surprised that this guy didn't win more championships. Like, he only won a single KSL since coming back to StarCraft 1. But I think his Zerg vs. Terran and his Zerg vs. Protoss are both top tier. In fact, I think he actually has the best approach to Zerg vs. Terran of everyone in the world. That's my opinion on that. Like, he's so monstrous in that matchup that if you misstep one time, you're done.
Yeah, he really knows how to snowball leads, and he's a very... I always think of SoulKey as a very abusive Zerg in that matchup, if that makes sense.
Okay.
But we're taking a look here at Movie. Movie's been around for a long time. Certainly, you know, I would say for all the ranks of all the Protosses here in the ASL, he's on the Stormtrooper level. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like,
no, I would agree. I think he's actually overall the weakest Protoss in this season.
Yeah.
And I think a big part of that is the weakness of his Protoss for Zerg. He just, he doesn't really win at this matchup. He kind of reminds me of old Snow, where you look at his other matches, you're like, ooh, pretty good. And then you watch his PvZ and you're like, oh no, like this is going to hold you back a lot.
Yeah,
so I hope he's working on that.
PvZ is a funny matchup because you really do have to know how to overpower the Zerg a lot of times. I mean, there are long, drawn-out macro games, but a lot of times it seems like you really have to disarm the Zerg. And some of these Zergs have such good defensive play as they build up that it's very tough to deal with. We're going to go to the map Eclipse as we have for the first game of every group here. First two games, I should say. And this has been a great map for PvZ. I think it's made for some very interesting plays. Again, you only need to win one game to go on to the winner's match. That's the way the round of 24 works. So maybe Movie's got a trick up his sleeve. Let's see.
Yeah. No, I hope he has something very good planned, but it is a two-player map. I think SoulKey is going to be able to check all the boxes. SoulKey, though, sometimes does get overly aggressive at times that we question whether he should or not, even though he says he's very confident with that. Being a champion, I guess we should believe him, but I could see him maybe making an error with that.
All right, guys, game one's ready. After this group, we go to the next level, the round of 16. Starting this group off here, SoulKey and Movie. Let's do this.
So we have SoulKey in the top right. And in the bottom left, we have Movie.
Okay.
You know, I want to throw this out there, Tastosis,
Yeah,
before we get
please.
too much into this match, is because we used to bring it up back when SoulKey first came back to StarCraft 1, but we haven't in a while, so I do want to throw this out there that when the Kespa pros were switching to StarCraft 2, the talk was really heavily about SoulKey coming over to StarCraft 2. That he was kind of the Kespa pro that was really excelling at the game. And yeah, certainly, like, you know, when the Kespa pros switched over, he and Rain specifically became like these uber players for their race and like became these massive champions. In, you know, both are GSL champs and everything, and were top of the world. And came back to StarCraft 1 and won championships there as well. So, you know, when you talk about how Rain is one of the best RTS players ever, because that comes up a lot, I do want to throw SoulKey's name in there as well.
Yeah, I'm actually glad you brought that up. I definitely put a lot of emphasis on Rain, but you're completely correct. And SoulKey was a god in StarCraft 2. This guy was so good. And we haven't had too many players that have kind of done it in both to the level that they have. In fact, I can't really think of two other players that even come close.
Yeah, for GSL champions that came back and won StarCraft 1 titles, it's only them.
Right.
It's only them. There are some of the other big champions. Actually, Jaedong won. He got second place in like 1 million tournaments, including the World Championship.
Yeah.
So
SOS.
I think you have to mention him. And yeah, Flash did win an IEM, so that was pretty big. Won an IEM over Zest, so that's like very impressive. But people forget about that.
Well, I think when you compare that to Flash's accomplishments and, you know, Brood War, it's easy to forget that. And I mean, I don't feel like he was. How long was Flash actually present in StarCraft 2 anyways? I feel like it wasn't that long, right?
Yeah, it wasn't that long. It wasn't
like
that long, but he
2
had
years or
actually one of the highest win rates for professional Terrans when he was there. But it was like kind of a dark time for Terrans too. But we should talk about this opener a little bit. It's a full first from SoulKey against a 2-gate in the main base for Movie.
So,
is he just copying Minnie's build?
I think this is a not a bad idea, but yeah, he immediately went for I guess we can call this the mini build. You know, I wasn't looking that closely, to be totally honest, to see if it was gate on 12 or gate on 11, but he is going to run that Zealot around. That means the Zerg has no idea there is a threat inbound. But yeah, since the Lings get in here, it's, you know, he sees exactly what's happening. 2-gate requires a very different play. This does seem to be a growing build in popularity in general in the matchup. This is personally a build I use a lot, which is 2-gate, and it looks like he's going to go 2-gate into gas.
Okay. Where do you want to go with the gas here? Is this a Corsair rush from there?
I believe so. Now, the thing is, there's a lot of different ways to play this. The one-base play, I think it's very hard if you go 2-gate into gas. Like, you have to really kind of know what you're doing. But you do force a pretty tight game out of the Zerg. You know, the Zerg's, most PvZs in the matchup are really the Zerg having a lot of freedom. But before we talk about tech, let's just focus on what's actually going down here. This Zealot with 4 HP, still alive, running amok inside of the base of SoulKey in the main here. And then we have the 2 Zealots putting pressure on here. A ramp block and 2 more Zealots to come up. And one of the strengths of 2-gate on this map is that you can really exploit the tiny ramp at that 3rd base and stop drones from getting there, force a lot of Lings. And since this isn't a 2-gate build where the Protoss is expanding, it's pretty easy once the rush starts to die down for the Protoss to have the defenses up and running so that the main doesn't get overrun. Layer's going to come and look, like you were asking me earlier, Tastosis, does the Protoss want to go Corsair? You can. It's also possible to go for a quick Reaver here. We've seen that before. You are at risk of mutas, but you know you're kind of trying to overpower the Zerg with a couple tech moves pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's super interesting. I think this is actually a really great idea from Movie because, you know, like I was mentioning, his PvZ is considered pretty darn weak and he does not win many of them. So to bring out this type of build where it's a completely different realm from most Protoss vs. Zerg games, I think it makes it harder for SoulKey because, like, look how many Lings SoulKey has had to make. SoulKey does not have many drones right now.
No.
I mean, he has 3 hatches. He can drone up. But this, oh my god, he's making the Robo-Tastosis. So is this just going to be that Reaver push you were telling me about like 2 years ago?
Yep. Yeah. So basically, you know, when the tech, the core is finished, you make one Dragoon like we see here, and this Dragoon stops slow overlords from seeing what's in the main. And the problem for the Zerg is you don't know, is it a Stargate being made? Is it Zealots with speed being made? Is there a Forge? Is there no Forge? You don't know that either. Or is it going to be a Robo Bay? And so all of these types of plays really require different approaches from the Zerg. And so the Zerg can actually deal with all of those if they are ready in time. Now, the issue in this game is that there is a Spire on the way. And so, and if I'm not mistaken, I don't think we have a Citadel here either. So this means that the Protoss is just going to die if he doesn't have something to deal with air. I mean, no Forge, no Archons. Like, one Dragoon, of course, doesn't do anything.
Yeah. It looks like it could end up being dangerous. The Wings come in and actually will pick off this probe. A little bit slow there by Movie. It does get picked off. But definitely getting ready for an attack. Now, this is so many Zerglings. I tell you what, if he does not get his army surrounded, but a Reaver is there... Oh, back up! Oh, back up! What are we doing? What are we doing? Why? Why are you not backing up? You're on one base!
Yeah, I don't know the rationale for this. What's weird is it seems like SoulKey's going to win this game on two fronts. He's going to basically win the fight on the ground, and then Mutas will just end the game, okay? I think that actually what Movie's plan was, and this is going to sound kind of funny, but it's almost like you cross your fingers and hope they go Hydras, and if they go Hydras, you win the game.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that.
But
he's like, I can't believe though that like all of his units were just sitting there spread out at the natural, and like he's on one base and then he gets surrounded and loses them. And now a Scourge are coming for his shuttle. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
All
right, guys, we're going to go into game two shortly here.
Oh, hold on, Tastosis. He just started a Stargate. Let's see if he can hold on. Oh, my
This
God.
is pretty bad. GG. Okay, so that is pretty bad, dude.
Yeah.
That was one of the worst things I've ever seen. Honestly, that's a humiliating defeat for Movie. Even the Reaver was late enough that it's like you're not even hitting at a time where like this is a threat.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You know? I mean, SoulKey was really smart to go into Spire. I guess if he doesn't go Spire, that can be more interesting, especially if Movie, who's sitting on one base, doing nothing on the map, can pull his units back when Zerglings come in to surround them. I got it. I'm not like I like the idea of doing a one base cheese because he is weak in the matchup, but I do not much. I don't think he did a good job there.
I mean, that was. I don't know. I mean, I think that we're gonna have to see how Movie does in the other games. That game, I mean, I think probably one of the worst games of his career as far as important matches go. SoulKey shut that down so easily, especially when the Lings came in and killed the whole ground army. That's where it's like, oh, you're just not going to win this game. One Reaver's not going to do enough of anything. It's the combination of the Reaver and the ground army, but also the Reaver was late. There was a lot of things that went wrong down there. Anyways, guys, tiny little break. When we return, Mong versus Jaedong. You don't want to miss it. We will be right back.
힘들어도
어려워도 이렇게 멈추면 내가 아니지.
오늘이 뭐야?
새로운 날을 만든다.
나의 레벨은 다르다. 어나더 레벨 핫6.
어려워도 이렇게 멈추면 내가 아니지. 오늘이 모여 새로운 날을 만든다. 나의 레벨은 다르다. 어나더 레벨 핫6.
핫식스와 함께하는 ASL 시즌 13 24강.
Hey guys, welcome back. We just saw a train wreck of a game, but you know what's not a train wreck? the ASL Patreon. Thank you so much, everyone, for supporting us and getting ASL Season 13 out there. Check it out on patreon.com/ASL English.
Yeah, I know a lot of you guys have been watching us for a long time, and it was always kind of this different format of, we worked for the studio, but this is the new way of going about things, is you connect directly with the fans. If you want to support us, this is the way to do that. We appreciate it. We love you guys, and we are so excited to be casting Group F, even though that game with Movie was a complete and total shit show. Ouch. It's true, man. What do you want me to say? That was like phenomenally bad by Movie. Not even like the idea was bad. The execution was terrible. I don't know. I'm worried about how his games are going to look for the rest of the day today, because that is like such a wounding loss.
Well, I mean, he's in ASL, so there's got to be something redeeming coming up, I hope. But now we have Mong. Mong gonna pound this giant, like, 2-liter Pocari Sweat, it looks like. That is, like, basically Korean Gatorade, guys. It's actually quite tasty. It's, I don't even know what flavor it technically is, but yeah, it's a good sports drink. Now, Mong is a macro Terran through and through. He's really, like, for a long time, he was known for having Flash-esque macro with mechanical units, like his factory type macro. If you let him get to a good spot in like a TVP or a TVT, he macros super well. His TVZ has come up a lot too, though. But now he's against none other than the tyrant himself in Jaedong.
Yeah, Jaedong, it's always a funny thing, because we have these guys that leave, and it's always kind of a bummer. They do their military service, and then the story of the tournaments go on, right? But with Flash being gone, Jaedong is a welcome entrance back into the scene. And look, once you're done with your military service, and this is a burden for all Korean men. I mean, a lot of guys complain about it. If you lived in Korea, you have friends that are Korean. It's always a pain in the ass when you have to drop everything and go do your military service, because, first of all, it just sucks, right? I mean, you have to train. You can't make money, by the way, when you're in the military, so you can't have a part-time job. You can't, like, on the weekend come and play in a tournament. That's not allowed. So it's this period where your career ends for a little bit. And the story always was that, or not the story, the narrative was always that, once you're in the military, your pro gaming career is done. Dude, people could not have been more wrong. Now you're free to do whatever you want with the rest of your life, and Jaedong's here doing Brood War. He's been looking amazing. I think he's a real threat for this ASL. But first, we got to see how he holds up against Mong on Eclipse.
Yeah, this could be tough. I think Eclipse is a solid map for Mong's skill set. Let's see what Jaedong has up his sleeve.
이클립스에서 게임을 시작합니다.
Brown Zerg? Whoa, Jaedong. What a baller.
Okay, Mong is spawning in the top right, Jaedong in the bottom left. Let's see what's going to happen, man. Let's go.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited about this. So, like, I mean, everything went too quick in the early game for me to really kind of tell everything I wanted to say about these guys. But basically, the short of it is Mong is solid in this matchup. This is generally the matchup that does hold him back. But the guy can make a lot of Marines. He can make a lot of Science Vessels, a lot of SCVs, expand a lot. It does get a little bit sloppy, so maybe Jaedong with some sharpness can come in and get him. But this map in particular, it's not that big. You know where Zerg is trying to expand to. You know how to kind of get your containments up. I feel like it's a solid map for Mong's skill set. And so I'm just sitting here kind of wondering if Jaedong is going to be able to power through Mong or not. Because I think once he gets going, that's going to be hard.
So Mong's actually thrown the barracks down in this position just south of the kind of mouth of the natural expansion. But I got to point out Jaedong's Overlord path here, because this is at an angle where I think it could just intercept the barracks.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I see. It's going to be a depot. Okay.
Yeah, so that he's making the depot for the wall so he can float back. He will kill the Overlord very likely with this. Like, if you go forward 8 racks in a position like this, the Overlord, unless they, like, you know, sent the Overlord somewhere very weird, this will catch the Overlord. Like, you'll have 2 Marines out, and you'll shoot that thing down. And you can float it back relatively quick. So, I wonder if that's, like, the plan. Like, you know, it's something that obviously you want to put some pressure on with those Marines. But maybe he's just looking for an Overlord kill?
Could be.
Because it's a weird place, right?
Yeah, well, you know, it's weird because it's not close enough to the Zerg where you think bunker rush, right?
I guess it's a good hiding spot in a way. You know?
Yeah, it is.
The drone
It's
scout
like-
doesn't see it.
It's almost like a StarCraft 2 hiding spot where, like, it's so close to the scouting path that you just assume that no one would put it there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Well, the Marines are, they're making their way. And, well, I mean, this is such a timeless thing in 8 racks coming for you that it's not like Jaedong needs to practice special for this. He's got defending 8 racks in his bones.
Yeah, so this is actually a bunker rush. It's just in such a funny spot that I think it's unlikely that you're going to be able to, you know that it's coming until, you know, it might be a little bit too late. Now, I think the real goal here is to kill drones. You're not really trying to end the game more than, you know, if they don't deal with this rush, then the game would end. So the idea is to try to shoot down as many workers as possible. The drones are going to come in here and try to intercept those Marines. Good control so far here by Mong.
Yeah, and 2 drones fall. So this is already good. 3 drones fall. He's going to get a 4th. Oh, that has like 1 health. Yeah, I had 1 shot left on it. Okay, so he's going to end up killing 2 drones total. He loses both SCVs, loses 3 Marines, and has to cancel the bunker. I think that was slightly better for Jaedong. But, like, not the end of the world for Mong.
Yeah, it's one of these moments in the game where, like, at the pro level, you see those engagements very often, and it can go either way. I think you're right. I think Jaedong's okay in that moment. Had he got that last drone, I think Mong would maybe be in a little bit better spot here,
Yeah,
but
no, I think that's exactly the assessment, yeah.
And so this one SCV blocks the way. Jaedong, I was curious if he was going to actually commit there or not. He does pull away at the last second. 25 HP remaining. And I think things are going to slow down. One thing I noticed right away is that the 3rd hatchery is made very quickly over here at the 3rd base. Is that normal in a ZVT on this map?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
pretty common to get like your very, very fast 3rd here. The 4th bases on this map are a lot slower than most maps because they're further away. You're not just like walking down a ramp and taking a 4th base like you will on a 4th player map. So yeah, it's super common. And like obviously after that 8 racks, you don't have that many units. You have to turtle up a little bit while you expand. So it's like a good call here as well.
And so, you know, this is going to be probably the slowest point in time here in the game. You know, Jaedong could keep powering up. The layer tech's going to come through here. You know, with those Marines that were lost earlier on, there's not a lot of room here for Terran to try to come out and be too aggressive. Is the Zerg worried about any kind of surprise tech here? I mean, obviously we see everything, but from Jaedong's perspective, are you at all worried about, you know, I don't know, maybe like some kind of surprise tech, like 2-port Wraith or something?
No, I think like in this particular game, like first off, you wouldn't really go for. If you were going to go a tech build after 8 racks, he would have already seen a Vulture. And, like, his Overlord saw the timing of the command center, so it kind of solves a lot of the things. He knows that it's bio, but specifically what Mong is doing bio-wise is he went into faster eBay than Academy. So this is a +1 rush for him. So he'll go up to at least 4 barracks, and maybe even 5, and just really macro out Marines and Medics. And you have to play against that really well. Like, you need your lurkers on time, and you need solid Mutalisk Micro. And if you have both of those, I feel like the 5 racks +1 guy gets a bit behind here. But if you mess up at all, like, Mong will roll through your Sunkens and kill you.
Yeah, it's a real roaming build that Mong is going for, right? I mean, he's basically setting up to try to look for fights. A lot of times in you know, when you get a little bit past mid-game and the Terran's really moving on the map, the Zerg has to get into an extremely defensive position here. and you know, basically hold off and rush into Defilers. But this first wave is going to move out here. We see Jaedong basically stalking the infantry that are coming out here. This doesn't so much cause a major threat to Zerg as it forces Zerg to make the sunken colonies. And of course, with the way that Zerg operates as a race, they're losing drones. And so these are the mini games that occur here in StarCraft that at pro levels, it's sort of the back and forth, the ebb and the flow of it. But it's just one way to keep their worker count slightly lowered. And you're getting some value out of that army, because if you were to attack into that, there's just no way that it's going to work. The Zerg would actually kill you off. But at the same time, if you don't make the sunks at all, the Terran will kill you.
Yeah. This has actually been like a really strong game on both sides. Everything looks good. It's kind of, in a way, reminding me of the game that we casted the other day, where it was JYJ against Soma, where you're like, yeah, this is exactly what TVZ looks like. Like, you know, obviously people can cheese and do crazy stuff, but this is a very good example of what these openers end up looking like. Like, he forced 5 Sunkens, which is really solid. Jaedong is bringing his mutas over now, but Mong has already retreated. He's building up his turrets. And, yeah, this is kind of the next phase now.
So the mutas are coming in here. The Stim Marines are going to shoot them away. The turret placement here from Mong is pretty good, especially when the second turret finishes over here by the barracks. There's not really one area that is easy for the Zerg to come in and snipe. But, of course, the Zerg does force the Terran in the same fashion to spend minerals on those turrets. He's going to look and see if he can't come in here. And, you know, one thing about Eclipse, and it's kind of a burden for the Terran in general, not just on this map, but maps like it, is when there's this high ground area over the minerals, the mutas can snipe the workers. And every time the mutas retreat back over the area where they can't be seen, it's often a forced reset on where the turret fires. So you're basically trading muta health, which will regenerate, to kill off workers.
Yeah. And he's done it okay with the harassment so far. The turrets are well placed, though. Oh, look at this. It's going to be Valkyrie tank. This is, like, you've got to kind of save your scans a little bit for this because your vessel's going to be late, but by getting a single Valkyrie out, the mutas have a terrible time approaching the Marine Ball. And obviously that can be used defensively at home as well. But yeah, this is a thing that we don't see pros do all that often, where you go quick Valkyrie and then you also go tanks and you try to tank push them down because it's like the mutas are the defense. Now here come those 2 tanks from Mong. He's set himself up pretty well for this.
He's hid the tanks very well. Like, he's basically masked this to look like it's, you know, a much more ordinary build. And then when the Valkyrie and the 3 tanks come at once, that's when we're going to see if Jaedong can deal with this. It's going to come down to a very specific timing attack here where, you know, we already have Hive Tech on the way. Basically, Mong wants to, like, cut the head off, so to speak, like, instantly kill the Zerg right before we get into late game, if that makes sense.
And Jaedong will pick off the Valkyrie, which is actually, that's a really strong pick-off. But also Mong was a little bit slow at this. He's actually waited for 3 tanks. Generally, tank timings nowadays are 2 tank timings because you have to get there before consume.
Keep in mind that there's no science vessel with this. So, okay, I was going to say, if he doesn't scan, hold position lurkers will just beat this. And so he's going to force a siege, but I think Jaedong is just going to run. Oh, okay. I'm so surprised he might actually attack in there. Looks like the Valkyrie does not go down. It's at about 1/3 of its health.
Yeah, and Jaedong right now leapfrogging back. Look at these Sunkens spread out as well. Jaedong gets another Valkyrie. Oh my god. And the amount of time he's going to buy with these spread out Sunkens and all these bro and unbro moves. Like, I think he's going to get consumed before he dies, Tastosis, and then suddenly Mong's position is not looking so hot.
Yeah, well, Mong's already been slowed down quite a bit here. And, you know, he has to really do some damage. The extra Sunkens in the front are really good. Just to force a siege and an unsiege, it does take quite a bit of time. 1 tank over here on the edge. If he could snipe that, that would be really big. Just enough damage to cause the mutas to have to back away. Consume is done, and Dark Swarms are going to be inbound here. And with Dark Swarms coming down, this push is going to get knocked back.
Yeah, as soon as that goes down, the push is over. And this is, like, what you're seeing here is why people don't go siege tanks that often against Zerg anymore. These Defiler rushes are just so strong against it. And now suddenly Mong is sitting on a position where he has siege tanks and Valkyries and not a vessel to speak of.
Yeah,
so he has no actual way to deal damage if Jaedong plays carefully.
Yeah, this is kind of crazy because, I mean, you could see here, when there's no, the tanks are killed, the Valkyries are killed, you basically were not investing in science vessels. That's the big disadvantage you get in if you didn't do enough damage early on, right? Because the science vessels are this kind of a resource of their own, right? They're able to irradiate over and over. You can, of course, spot lurkers. I mean, they're very powerful units. So when it's just that remaining, that's pretty bad, man. And you really don't have a lot of that momentum you would have otherwise if you had played more standardly.
Yeah, and that's an issue. Maybe Mong is going to go mech or something, because I see him right now with like over 800 gas in bank, which means he's not making vessels still. Still a lot of Marines coming out. Okay, yeah, look at that, factory ads. Okay, that makes more sense now, because like I was mentioning, right, like a tank Valkyrie build, it's good for like a timing kind of, but it doesn't leave you many options afterwards. So it looks like he wants to go into mech. He's on 2 base right now and has a lot of Marines out to kind of contain. I've never seen anyone do an opening like this into a continuation like this. So I mean, my eyes are wide open. I can't wait to see what Mong brings, but it feels very good for Jaedong right now.
Yeah, I think Jaedong's very okay right now. I mean, if you even look, the dropship's getting loaded up. Where is he even going to put that? Right? I don't see any targets that are,
Oh, you're definitely right about that.
Weak, right? Yeah, I don't feel like this is going to go anywhere.
No, this is one of the worst maps for dropships at this time. Like, really late game, yeah, you're kind of spread out as Zerg, so maybe it'll work. But these quicker dropships, like, I think it fits with his strategy because he has all this bio that's not going to scale well because he's not getting upgrades. But yeah, where do you drop? At the tiny third base or the tiny main?
Yeah, exactly. There's no spot that's really that weak. It looks like the drone, of all things, is going to see that drop coming in here. Let's see what's actually available. There is a Nidus over here, and he is going to elect to just drop over here. The mutas are going to snipe the drop ship. Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those moments where there's not a lot you can do, but I'll tell you what, not doing that would have been better than getting the drop ship and sending it there.
Yeah. So the full mech transition is underway. The barracks going to start flying off. Second armory coming up. He does have that third base going as well. This is a cool build.
Yeah, I like this.
This is like it's a cool idea. We've seen some of the Pro Terrans trying to fit in some of these strange mech switches. And this is definitely one of them. And, I mean, the Vultures are going to be powerful here, but there's no actual way for Mong to do damage right now. I think he has to just play a longer game. Like, I like the Vultures out, lay some mines, whittle down what you can. But, yeah, he's going to have to just get his fourth base up and really mass up.
So, for now, Zerg can't really fully fight the Terran. But, Terran is a little bit weak when they do this massive mech tech switch, right? I mean, the bio he wants to kind of hang on to because the bio is just hard to engage with, and you can always stim and run away. But the mech switch is going to be an interesting one. Let's keep in mind this is Eclipse, and when you have mech, I think a lot of times you think of TVT or TVP, but, the conundrum of the way this map is shaped is also like a big factor here, right? Is that you're trying to expand into both the top left and the bottom right. Mech is usually not that mobile, or probably less mobile than, other compositions in the game. So I'm curious to see how Jaedong's going to play that.
Yeah, it's a good point. Like, it feels like, and I've played mech on this map some, but it feels like you can kind of dominate top left, but bottom right is getting a little bit tricky.
Yeah. By the way, I love the Guardian play here above the natural. So cool.
Yeah, and this might actually really hurt Mong. It looks like he is getting Goliath range now. But remember, he's made 4 Valkyries this game, but he lost all of them, kind of over-committing with them. If he had 4 Valkyries still, like, this would never occur. But here it is, and doing a lot of damage.
Yeah, and, if the Terran doesn't have something there to address the Guardians are extremely powerful against ground units. Marines are actually quite weak against them. They do deal a lot of damage here. Oh man, Jaedong losing a lot of really important units, to be honest, over in this position here.
Yeah, that was a little bit sloppy for sure. Wraith popping out, so I guess he can deal with this, but that was some solid damage. The Goliaths come in. Oh, some Scourge come up. Oh, I like that he actually targets the Wraith instead of Science Vessel. That felt counterintuitive, but okay, well, he has enough for everything, I guess. But, yeah, Mong will be able to force that back, obviously. Goliaths actually really are good against Guardians once they have that range attack. But, yeah, it's interesting game right now.
Yeah, Lurkers are going to try to come up now. Spider Mines, are a real threat when you're trying to push with Lurkers, but he's managed to chain the Dark Swarms together, and now he's just over here at this ramp. Now, keep in mind, to the left of the screenshot is another base, but the Guardians have hammered that natural pretty hard, and now we have a massive amount of units and Dark Swarm available right outside that third. There's a chance that Mong is just suddenly killed in this game.
Yeah. Yeah, if he kills the third, that's it.
Yeah.
Like, Mong has to hold on.
And the Dark Swarms, another one is going to get set up over here. This is going to give the Lings a little bit better access to this area. And as long as you get a Lurker burrowed, like once a Lurker burrows under Dark Swarm, there's almost nothing Terran can do. I mean,
Yeah,
can an SCV damage a Lurker and Dark Swarm under burrowed? It can't, right? And a Firebat cannot too, right? Or can it?
A Firebat can,
okay,
yes.
Okay.
But it's got concussive damage, so it does almost nothing.
Right.
So yeah, it's tough when they do get that position. But like Mong is getting a lot of siege tanks, and if he can just kind of siege and sit there for a minute, like once he makes a full siege line, you're not really gonna break in anymore. Like all these, once you get like +2 on the siege tanks and so on and so forth with mines in front, it's very hard for Zerg to actually break in. But it is also very hard for Terran to push. Because like you said, like if you Dark Swarm one Lurker, the mech force can't go forward.
Right.
It simply cannot. And you don't have a bunch of vessels. All your gas is being spent on mech and mech upgrades.
I think Terran is actually going to get this fourth base up here. I want to point out, too, once Terran mechs and has got all these spots secure, there's almost nowhere to attack into a mech army. Like, it's pretty annoying. It's hard to get in there. But we do have, at the same time, the bottom right 2 expansions have gone pretty much neglected. I mean, nobody's really tried to actually take them.
Yeah. I think we'll see Jaedong probably try to take him pretty soon. That was a nice pickoff from Mong using the last little bits of his bio. The mines picking up some valuable hits as well. Jaedong producing more Lings than I would imagine. Like, he is making a lot of Zerglings right now, which can be very good. Like, you can drag mines and stuff, and if you get on top of anything, it's strong. But as the mech upgrades grow, like, Vultures and tanks both can counter Lings relatively hard.
Okay, the Lings are going to come up here. Kind of crazy to see so many Vultures fighting up here. With Ultras in play as well, Ultra's also very powerful, not just against infantry and bio, but also perfectly reasonable to get against mech here. And I love the usage of Burrow here. Whoa, Queens. Okay. I wasn't sure if we were going to get to Queens, so I didn't bother bringing it up, but we do see Queens as an answer to mass tanks very often, is that Broodling, even though the spell is like really expensive, anytime you can trade energy on any unit, like a Templar, a Queen, a Defiler, whatever, and use that to get kills on especially an expensive gas unit, it's like the best value you can get out of the whole game.
Yeah, yeah. And one Broodling cast on a siege tank pays for the Queen. So it's super cost efficient, but it does take a long time, as you said, 150 energy to cast one. Now,
and pushing right now, I think, is a good idea. Once you see a bunch of Queens, you go, okay, it's going to take a long time for their energy to actually fill up. And so you might as well just go for it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think, like, if you see the Queens hatch, that's probably the best attack timing that you will get. Other than that, you're going to have to find a way to be very efficient against Queens, whether that's going Irradiate, EMP, Massive Valkyrie can sometimes knock those Queens down.
EMP, that's smart. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, it's okay to get EMP against them because they come in oftentimes in a clump. So if you can hit that EMP, that's like, what a reset button.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. And then when you think about that, I mean, that's like the biggest reset button I could even think of. I was thinking when the queens come out, it's almost like when you see carriers start to be made for the Terran.
Yeah,
where it's like, well,
bit.
if you attack fast enough, the carriers, aren't going to be a real factor in the game.
Oh, totally.
And I thought the push was actually coming, but instead he decides to snag another base, which is, I guess, another way of doing things. But yeah, these Broodlings then are eventually going to be a huge factor here.
Yeah, he's definitely going to get Broodlings off. But, the first time they spend the Broodlings, it pays for the Queens, but it's like a trade in a way, right? It's the second time that they get them that they start really gaining value. So while it is scary, if your economy gets big enough, you just keep making tanks. And it takes the Queens a long time to continually pay for themselves. Like, 50 energy in StarCraft takes 1 minute to get. That's actually exactly what it is.
That's a good thing to know.
Yeah, so once they use their first, it takes 2 minutes after the Queen comes out for Broodling, and then it takes 3 minutes for the next. So it's 5 minutes before they gained value for you.
So now that Terran's taken the top left, we got to point out that he'll end up getting 2 gases. For as long as he has it, he has 2 gases. Of course, the bottom right, you're getting more minerals from in the long run, and you have 2 gases. I don't think the gas amount at those geysers is different, is it?
The top left geysers are not full, and the bottom right ones are full.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
So that means that then the bottom right 2 bases are always better than the top left.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Okay.
Like, I mean, for one place, it gives you faster gas income for a certain amount of time, but that runs out more quickly, too. All right, here we go.
So
the Queens are coming, Tasteless.
Yeah. It's funny, another unit that everybody thought was kind of useless, turns out to be extremely powerful as we learn more and more about this game. And the goal is to just kill any tanks. Certainly tanks over Goliaths, but just take what you can get. The Broodling range is actually pretty long, too, so you could snipe it. Ideally, don't lose the Queens, send them back, try to reset them. And look, he's killing off a lot of gas-intensive units. And just looking at this game as like almost like it's a game of Risk or something, where, who controls what. I do think that in the long run, Jaedong's going to be better off if this game pans out. We start to really mine out the entire map.
Yeah, if it keeps going like this, definitely. And, I mean, these Dark Storms with the Lings underneath, he's definitely doing a good job of harassing this base some. He's knocking out quite a few tanks. But Mong still has a big economy. The one thing I'm afraid about for Mong here is it's not the Queens as much as it is those 2 bottom right bases. When Jaedong gets those really mining, like, Mong needs to maybe kill the 4th base. Since his whole army is concentrated up here, I feel like he must kill that 4th base to have a chance in this game.
Yeah, I agree. I think a push is probably in order here. The problem is that this is mostly, he kind of went the way of just siege tanks and trying to hold a position. And, siege tanks are very hard to break when they're in mass like this. You kind of see that everything just gets, pulverized as it tries to run towards that location. But just siege tanks alone are actually terrible at pushing Zerg. Zerg can kill that with just a couple Lings.
Yeah, you need, like, if you have, like, 24, you might plaster everything before it touches you, but before that, it's important to have some buffering units. Now, look at this. Jaedong is swinging his army in the other direction. And this is a really powerful move, because that top left is the hardest place to get units in and out of. So now he's trying to swing here, but there's a lot of tanks there running through some mines going towards that 3rd base. And more Broodlings coming up as well.
Beautiful broods there, killing that off. It's always funny, the after effect of the Broodlings being there, I almost always forget that's even a thing. You know what I'm talking about? Because they're so bad and they don't last that long. It seems like Blizzard was very conservative when they were designing this unit. Like, oh, that might be too strong to have these units that are going to be there. But yeah, you can use those Broodlings and draw the splash damage away from the towards the other tanks, and that's another effective thing about this.
Tastosis, I think we are just about at the end here. Jaedong is swarming absolutely everywhere. He's cut off the rotation of any units. The Queens are all up at the front. We have Dark Swarms in the natural. So few units remain right now for Mong.
Okay, some Broodlings on these tanks, and this is another way to take the Terran down. If you just get over these factories, remember, Eclipse is funny in that can't really get factories or barracks put anywhere else on the map other than the starting locations. This is a map where there's a shockingly low amount of buildable terrain, which makes it quite different from a lot of other maps. So if you can kill off or at least take control of this area, they actually can't make units anymore. It doesn't matter how much money they have. And that's going to be a GG. Jaedong takes that first game off of Mong, and now he's going to be going up in a ZVZ versus SoulKey.
Yeah, it was kind of a tricky one. I like where Mong was at strategically there. Like, he brought something that was kind of new. I haven't seen that before. So it was a cool mech switch, but Jaedong just looking a bit stronger. Like, he really got his macro going. That endless Ling Flood against top left, you know, into the attack up towards top right. It was a great swing of momentum, and Mong was just unable to really stabilize any position.
We are going to be going to a break in a second here, but when we come back, we're going to have that ZVZ. And honestly, this is about as good of a ZVZ as you could ever ask for. Jaedong versus SoulKey. I mean, two of the very best players at that matchup. If you're a fan of the matchup, you're a student of Zerg, this is going to be one that's going to be very exciting. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how that pans out.
Yeah. Very, very awesome to see. And I think it'll be a quick one, Taste. It's the best one, Zerg versus Zerg. So, guys, do not go anywhere. We will be right back with this winner's match.
ASL 시즌 13 Unlimited.
What's up, everybody? We're back, and we're ready for the winner's match. And this is going to be a really fun one, man. You know, people have their opinions on ZVZ, but you have to be excited when you have these two players playing in the matchup.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited to see what a modern top-tier ZVZ with two, I think, very different Zerg players going head-to-head is going to look like here.
Oh, definitely. Jaedong is... I mean, they're both the full package in many ways, but I definitely think of SoulKey more of a macro-esque Zerg and a strategic Zerg, whereas Jaedong is more of like a killer instinct, god of Zergs Zerg, you know?
Sure, absolutely. Now, Jaedong is, you know, one of these phenoms in the matchup ZVZ, where he kind of debunked the whole rock, paper, scissors idea that was circulating pretty heavily over a decade ago, where people concluded that ZVZ was really like kind of hard around the edges and was very much just dependent on what openers you chose to do. He basically proved he could win in any with any opening, against any opening, and it didn't matter.
No, he really was a different level from everyone else. It was known as a JVZ because he's just that strong. So this is going to be, of this season, our first Zed versus Jed. Let's get into it. The map is going to be Butter. And I'm predicting Jaedong here, Tasteless.
I'm predicting Jaedong as well, but I'm not going to be that surprised if SoulKey takes it. Yeah, let's go to Butter. Let's get the CVZ underway.
버터에서 게임을 시작합니다.
All right, so in the top right, we have SoulKey. In the bottom right, Jaedong. We are on Butter, a two-player map. That actually takes some of the RNG out of it, I would say, right? Because you know where your opponent's at, so you're going to scout each other exactly when you want to, and that's, yeah, I like that. It's, you know, we don't have that little tiny bit of luck or unluck.
Well, we do have, I think especially, excuse me, especially because of the positions that you start out on this map, we should keep in mind it's probably going to be possible to run out with Lings and run around the Overlord so they can't see it. And that's certainly something that I think Jaedong himself popularized more so than a lot of these other Zergs, you know, have. And That's always been a funny thing about the matchup. You know, the way that Zerg operates, they've always been able to function off of a small number of drones, but the scary thing about ZVZ is because, you know, Lings are so powerful and you can get speed right away, you don't really get a lot of drones at all in ZVZ. So any drone that's killed, or even a drone that is forced to make a building, it's pretty impactful on the economy.
Yeah, in like we see that where the differences between two players will be something like 1 to 2 drones mining, but it does make that difference. So there's lots of little tactics that you see where, first off, every single Zergling matters in this matchup, whereas you'll see, you know, a single Zergling thrown away all the time in other matchups. Here, they all have very specific uses. In fact, like, for instance, SoulKey, I wouldn't be surprised if we see this tactic this game. He uses this a lot where he'll just put 2 Zerglings, like, way out on the left side of the map.
Right.
And those will just come in randomly later in the game and try to run past everything and get drones in the main base.
Yeah, and that is definitely something you got to be watching for. I do like the fact that they're basically doing the same builds here. Because whenever you have 2 players of this caliber and they both open up with the same sequence, I love to see when they actually branch off from each other. You know, where they see the matchup going in a better direction, or if they just keep kind of matching each other.
Yeah, well, it looks like SoulKey going to get his layer started too, just a little bit behind Jaedong there. And, yeah, both of them just sending out their first 6 Lings. Don't think that they can get too much done. It looks like SoulKey is going to run back and take a little bit more of a defensive stance while Jaedong continues to go forward.
And there's the layer on the way now. We don't have a third hatch started on either side, but Jaedong does seem to... Ooh, gotta be careful. Even one Ling that gets picked off is pretty huge. Even a few extra Ling hits on a Ling can be a big deal. You know, they can, of course, heal over time, but everything should be marked as fragile. You know, when you go to the airport and you have something in your bag, you don't want them to mess up. It's like every unit should have the fragile sticker on here in this matchup. The drones, the Lings...
Yeah, everything is a glass knife, truly, right? So while it's fragile, it will still hurt you very badly. So, also dangerous, tasteless, so it can only be in checked baggage.
That's right. Try to get that through security. I don't think so, man. So it's going to be one basing, layer into Spire, which is kind of a funny thing that can happen in ZVZ here. You know, normally you want to have 2 hatches pumping mutas out. But when you both can't get another hatchery, you end up with this very tight muta play here. And so we see 3 larvae have already been banked up for Jaedong, although I think he could squeeze out 1 or 2 more units before he has to commit to anything. And he just wants to get that second hatchery. Now, are we going to have that second hatch come down for SoulKey? And where will it be? It looks like he's sending a drone over here to the natural, and this now makes for 2 very different positions in this game.
Yeah, it really does. Also, we did see those 2 Lings go to the side like we were talking about before from SoulKey. It looks like he brought them in and they can't get in, so whatever. But yeah, the second hatch at the natural seems like it's an advantage for SoulKey, but that might mean that Jaedong is going to have an easier time defending having both of his hatcheries in the same location. So
that's true.
I would say that this game should go, like, Jaedong should be the aggressor and SoulKey should be the defender here.
Yeah, it is quite the position, to be honest, for, like, you know, Jaedong to try to come in here and cut these 2 different locations apart. The minerals, though, are hugging, for the main base, the minerals hug the right side of the map, so it's not that easy to get in there. Maybe you can attack the drones at the bottom part, but the minerals and the gas at the expansions are actually pointed pretty far away. So even though there's 2 locations to attack, it's not the most accessible point here for Jaedong to try to hit with Mutalisks, if he's going to hit drones at least.
Well, the first few mutas are popping out on both sides. Jaedong's just a couple seconds quicker. It's like the first blood of the game, tasteless.
Let's go.
Oh, first blood. All right, we finally have something dying here. Over 5 minutes into a ZVZ. That's like the latest ever, honestly.
Yeah, this has been a pretty conservative game. Now, keep in mind, in mutas in small numbers, micro gets very important. Remember that 1 Scourge doesn't kill a muta, but it almost kills a muta. So if we get, 2 Scourge to hit 2 different mutas, you can take a fight and probably win the game.
Now, another Ling does get picked off. Jaedong's starting to come forward a little bit. Don't forget, he has those 2 hatches in the main base. So again, they're more defendable in a lot of ways, but he doesn't have access to a second gas. So if he doesn't do damage to SoulKey, that's going to be big trouble.
Yeah, the longer that SoulKey gets this base and the more drones he can get mining from it, the further and further ahead that SoulKey is going to be. But I think Jaedong right now does have a position where he could try to engage this. Keep in mind, Ling speed was never upgraded on either side, which means, Ling counterattacks, while they always can be a threat, they're much less of a threat in this game. And because gas is so tight, I don't know when Ling speed is going to come. And usually when we see more and more Scourge made, that can telegraph that that player wants to try to take a fight pretty soon here. We just got to see how that's going to be.
Yeah, you're definitely right about that. Like, that's when you see someone bank up a ton of Scourge, that's like the Scourge don't scale as well as the Mutas. So, you're making those Scourge for a reason. Now, we have SoulKey starting to mine from his second gas. So he is doubling the gas income of Jaedong right now. Jaedong has to move.
Okay, we see there's Jaedong move it up. Now, there's some spotter overlords here. Like, you can see that one, the Mutas are just flying back, just to kind of tip off, SoulKey right before they get there. So they're going to go by this spotter overlord. Now, Jaedong can at least try to take a fight and kill that off. The Scourge are now going to come down.
Oh, but the Ling's going for a counterattack here at the natural. SoulKey turns around because there's more Lings for Jaedong. SoulKey being maybe a little bit too greedy with his drone count. Now, Jaedong starts to come in with those Mutas. SoulKey with some sweet micro moves back.
Now, I think there's more Scourge here for SoulKey. In fact, I don't see any more Scourge right now for Jaedong, so he's going to have to back up. He can't engage those Scourge unless he can snipe them. The 2 Scourge here from Jaedong do help out, but now the Lings are going to be doing a lot of damage. He hits these Overlords over here on the right, hits a drone. He does need the Mutas with that. He goes in for another hit. I think, as we get out of this, now the Hatch living is a big, big deal here, but Jaedong expanding, he got out without losing the bulk of his Mutas. And drones were killed off. I think Jaedong is in a very, very solid position here.
Yeah, he is going to get his 3rd hatch up there at the natural. Obviously, he did lose all of his Zerglings, but he killed the Zerglings of SoulKey as well. So I think right now SoulKey probably has an additional drone or 2, but that's it. I'm not entirely sure about the Mutalisk count, to be honest.
Yeah, it's always kind of tough to just look at a clump of Mutas and identify how many are in there, but usually the best way to do it is to try to look at the shadow below them and how dark that gets. And that shadow does look pretty dark. What is that? Yeah, I think they're actually even on Mutas. But yeah, I see more Scourge here for Jaedong, which also matters.
Yeah, now they are starting to mine gas here once again. Seems like a pretty close game overall. Like, Jaedong, I think, actually, at this point, does he have more drones now? He does have 3 hatches, and that makes quite the difference. So, like, looking at this position, with that additional hatch, he can just kind of squeeze out more drones and squeeze out more Lings. So maybe it's time for him to sit defensively for a little bit and make SoulKey come to him.
Well, we see the Scourge coming down now, and I mean, SoulKey's got a pretty godly amount of Scourge to the point where, he could basically chase Jaedong into the corner of the map and then just slam into him with those Scourge. And, all you have to do is get enough of a Muta lead where they can't fight anymore, and everything else falls into place. You can kill all the workers, the game ends. But now they've gone around each other. Oh, this is so crazy. Now, Jaedong will be able to kill some drones off before the fight if he chooses to do that, but he can't get away from these Scourge, so he's going to have to try to get the fight. He's microing back pretty well. Good flicking with the Mutas.
His Scourge still trailing right now. He sends the Scourge in. Some of the Scourge actually hitting on both sides. Jaedong going after some of these drones, but he might be trapped right now. His Ling's at the natural, but not actually attacking. That could be an actually terrible mistake. But now he turns around. It looks like SoulKey is lower on those Mutas. This is looking like it might end up going to Jaedong here.
Yeah, Jaedong, I think, just has too much. There are still some Lings over at this expansion. Only 4 Mutas, now 3 remaining here for SoulKey. That's going to be it. Jaedong now has enough Mutas that he can kill off all the workers, and the game's going to end. I mean, these Scourge are far away enough that there's no way for him to recover the drones. GG, Jaedong is the first player to escape and advance into the round of 16 for Group F.
Oh my god, this is exactly what I dreamed of, Tasteless. Jaedong looking amazing against SoulKey, a player that's been active for quite some time. And right out of the military, here he is. Round of 16 in ASL.
So cool, man. Props to Jaedong for playing so well, making it look easy. I think that was a really fun ZVZ to cast. You could see, though, that there was a point where he just managed to take a couple shots at the drones. And again, I mean, it really is like the straw that breaks the camel's back. You get down 1 or 2 drones, and you just don't have... You might have lost, like, 20% of your workers, 10% of your workers. It's huge. So he survives. That leaves us with 3 players remaining in the round of 24 and only 1 spot left in the round of 16.
Oh my gosh, that is correct. And who is going to make it through? I think SoulKey is the favorite, but we have another match coming up before that to see who will be facing him. But even before that, Tasteless, let's not get ahead of ourselves. We got to get this interview with Jaedong.
If you say so, Artosis. I think we're going to go to that interview in a second. Let's see how...
I'm in charge. I do say so.
I think that interview is going to be ready for us. I do look forward to seeing how Jaedong feels, and what his hopes are in this ASL.
ASL 시즌 13 24강 마지막 F조 경기에 함께하고 계십니다. 오늘의 첫 번째 16강 진출자가 탄생했는데요. 돌아온 폭군 이재동 선수입니다. 축하드립니다.
감사합니다.
시즌 6 이후에 7번째 시즌 만에 다시 한번 조지명식에서 이재동 선수를 볼 수 있게 됐습니다. 담담하게 경기전 인터뷰에는 하셨지만 아무래도 너무 오랜만에 경기장에 돌아오셔서 긴장도 많이 되셨을 것 같은데 보란듯이 경기력으로 압도하고 16강에 다시 올라가시네요. 기분을 좀 여쭤볼까요?
굉장히 좋고 많이 떨리네요. 근데 인터뷰하는 것도 굉장히 떨리는데 호흡이 자꾸 이렇게 올라가지고
네.
일단 너무 좋고 실력으로 올라간 것 같아가지고 더 좋은 것 같아요.
저는 이재동 선수를 ASL을 통해서만 뵀지만 이렇게 긴장하시는 모습은 또 정말 처음 뵙는 것 같아요. 그만큼 이 경기장 무대에서 주는 이 중압감 또 설레임이 이재동 선수에게 얼마나 그리우셨을지 또 짐작이 갑니다. 오늘 본인이 만족스러운 경기를 좀 펼치셔서 더 이야기를 나눠보고 싶은데요. 먼저 윤찬희 선수와의 테란전 경기. 윤찬희 선수가 경기를 정말 많이 준비해 온 게 느껴졌어요. 3번 정도의 좀 빌드 전환이 있었거든요. 초반에 8배럭으로 공격을 갔는데 이재동 선수가 3개의 드론을 잃었지만 그래도 그 다음에 윤찬희 선수가 다시 한번 바이오닉 조합으로도 발키리를 대동한 공격을 또 한 번 갔어요. 그리고 나서 다시 한번 레이트 메카닉으로 전환했습니다. 이 순간순간에 이재동 선수가 좀 위기감을 느꼈던 순간이 있었을까요?
일단 준비를 굉장히 많이 했어요. 그래서 다 생각을 하고 있었던 빌드고 경기장 오기 전에도 똑같은 빌드로 연습을 했었기 때문에 게임하면서 특별히 위기라고 생각은 안 들었고 중간에 살짝 제가 이제 집중력을 좀 잃었었는데 그때 좀 정신 제대로 차리고 하니까 이기더라고요.
16강을 결정짓는 승자전 아무래도 이재동 선수는 저저전 워낙 잘하는 선수지만 그래도 또 승자전 경기에서 동족전 조금은 부담스럽지는 않으셨나요?
저는 무조건 이긴다고 생각하고 왔고 저우전 준비하면서도 경기장에서 만약에 저우전 하게 된다면 제가 웬만하면 제가 실수만 안 하면 이긴다 생각하고 왔어요.
자신감도 정말 오랜만에 이재동 선수 특유의 자신감이 보이는 인터뷰 함께하고 있는데 이제 16강 조지명식에서 팬들과 또 함께 하실 수 있게 됐습니다. 어떤 모습 좀 보여주고 싶으신가요?
일단 준비 열심히 해가지고 상대가 누구든 간에 저는 제 자신과의 싸움이라 생각해요. 열심히 준비하고 있으니까 팬분들한테도 좋은 모습 보여드릴 수 있도록 하겠습니다.
네, 팬분들뿐만 아니라 이재동 선수 함께하고 있는 동료들 중에 또 언급을 기다리고 있는 동료가 있다고 알고 있는데 혹시 하고 싶은 말씀 있으실까요?
일단 연습을 되게 많이 도와줘가지고 사실 아까 메모장에 적어왔는데 지금 없는데 일단 기억나는 대로 말씀드리자면은 진무기 형 고맙고 태경이 그리고 일장이 덕분에 저저전 이긴 것 같고 그리고 영웅이도 많이 도와줘가지고 되게 감사하다고 말하고 싶고요. 그리고 제가 알기로는 저희 바스포드 이사장님이신 감스트님이 굉장히 응원 많이 하고 있을 거라고 생각하는데 감스트님한테도 감사하고요. 그리고 응원해주는 그 바스포드 대학교 멤버들 다들 감사드리고 마지막으로 항상 팬분들께 감사합니다.
네, 돌아온 폭군 정말 환영하고요. 이번 시즌 멋진 모습 기대하겠습니다. 인터뷰 고맙습니다. 자, 이렇게 해서 마지막 24강 F조의 첫 번째 16강 진출자 이재동 선수와 함께했습니다. 저희는 잠시 후에 두 번째 진출자와 돌아오겠습니다.
힘들어도
어려워도 이렇게 멈추면 내가 아니지.
오늘이 보여.
새로운 나를 만든다. 나의 레벨은 다르다. 어나더 레벨 핫6. 어려워도 이렇게 멈추면 내가 아니지. 오늘이 모여 새로운 나를 만든다. 나의 레벨은 다르다. 어나더 레벨
Welcome back, everybody. It's time to eliminate one of these two players that's left in Group F. And look, I think Movie's going to have a better game than the one that we saw. He basically tried to kind of be sneaky and have this sort of surprise Reaver come out against SoulKey, and it completely backfired. Mong's in very good shape. I don't think Movie's a bad player in this matchup, so this should be a fun one.
Yeah, I could see this possibly being close, but I do think that Mong is higher level than Movie. Mong is really strong macro-wise in TVP. I think he puts out really, really solid TVPs. In fact, I think it's his best matchup. So I'm looking forward to this and seeing what he's going to bring for us here today. I think it's just going to be some big macroing, some big macro energy.
Yeah, some big macro energy, is that what you just said? That's
Yeah.
so funny.
He's going to bring his big macro energy to can you deal with it? That's the question.
Well, that's the question. I don't know if I can deal with it, Artosis, as a caster.
Yeah, no, you and I cannot deal with it, but
Yeah.
can Movie deal with it?
Yeah, Movie having a rough day, though. I don't know, Movie that well at all. Like, I've never actually had a chance to talk to the guy or anything, so I don't know how he processes stress. He's some of these players we've been backstage with, we kind of know how they, think, and we see how they react to their losses, whether they laugh it off or they're very upset. But I hope his head's in a good spot, man, because he's going to need to play very well. He is probably the worst player in this group. Mong looking very scary with that big macro energy, as you said. And, of course, SoulKey is just a beast of an opponent.
Yeah. Well, we got to get there first.
ASL 시즌 13.
All right, let's do it, Tasteless.
Let's go to Monopoly. Get your top hats ready.
모노폴리에서 게임을 시작합니다.
All right. In the 3 o'clock position on our 3-player map, we have Mong. And at the top left, we have Movie. So let's, I was pretty disappointed in the Ruin game in Group E, where Ruin expanded towards Terran. And then, Sok was just okay, and then attacked and killed the Nexus, won the game easily. So I do not want to see. I want to see Movie expand away from Mong and a nice big macro game.
This is a funny map. 3-player maps always kind of have this weird role where, the Protoss just, assuming that it isn't a carrier game or it isn't a cheese game, the Protoss does need to basically win over the other starting location. Mm-hmm. The bottom left in this case, and we'll see how that plays out. There is this weird center to the map as well, which does seem to basically make this map like a giant wheel that you kind of can run around in circles. So let's see what kind of game we've got.
Yeah. Gonna be a minute while we see how they want to end up opening. Looks like there will be a gateway coming up for movie, so no Nexus first.
And I have not personally played any games on this map, but I do feel like, you know, it's a weird one, man. I don't know about you. Like, you know, there's certain maps you can look at, and some maps you're like, oh, that's cool. That looks like fun. I want to play on. And other ones you're like, if that's the map pool, I might veto it. How do you view this as a Terran player?
I would play this map. I would give it a try. I like 3-player maps in general. I find that they make more dynamic games because you can't split it. So I think that just causes a little bit more action than you're likely to see on other maps. Even though I think like split map scenarios are oftentimes very good for Terran. It's just there's something fun about a 3-player map.
Oh, sure.
And the battling over that other base. Now, that being said, Mong looks like he's setting himself up for a gasless expansion, just like a 15 command center. And looking at the build that Movie has opened with here, we're going to see if he makes a Zealot or not. But this, with the first scout, this looks really nice for Mong. Like, I mean, it's not one of those things where you look at it, you're like, whoa, he's way ahead. But that's a solid, fast command center. Movie is doing one of these scoutless builds, so he'll actually probably get a pretty quick Nexus with that. Oh, yeah. And he does make the Zealot, but the thing is Mong sees that, so it's very easy to block.
Yeah, I think if you're the Terran and you scout this, you're like, all right, we can, you know, breathe a sigh of relief. Like, all right, you know, we're not getting cheesed. We're going to be fine. Our build's going to pan out pretty nicely. Now, when you're the Terran and you see first of all, your command center is going to finish earlier. You know, obviously, let's say that Mong like makes a robo right now and he's going to do a Reaver push. That's one thing, but most likely the Protoss is just going to expand a little bit later. Is there something economically or maybe strategically you can exploit as the Terran in this spot? I mean, you're going to be mining your extra mineral patches very quickly. Is there anything you'd want to try to do in this moment?
Yeah, I mean, generally, when you do a build like this, like the two big choices are, number one, put pressure on with some sort of either like just straight up 2 factories, you know, and pressuring them with your first 3 to 5 tanks and Marines, which that's always a good follow-up to this. Or if you really want, you can do like a crazy upgrade rush where you're going to be taking your 3rd base quickly, getting a ton of upgrades. I don't think that this map necessarily lends itself to that. I think we'll see Mong just do like a 2 factory pressure. And yeah, I mean, anytime that you have your command center up before Protoss, you're feeling pretty comfortable with a build like that.
And, you know, from the Protoss's perspective, does that mean that you should probably be going Reaver just because, let's say Terran's really greedy? Well, then you can try to even that out with the Reaver. Or I'm going to lose my mind if this Dragoon does not kill this SCV. Man. I don't know what I'm seeing. I'm like, what is going on? Okay, there we go.
You got lucky there.
You know, or you know, with a Reaver, of course, you can always fight a push.
Yeah. I think that there's almost like you can never say it's bad to go Reaver. With how good people have gotten with Reavers and the various ways to use them, they're so good defensively and offensively and for harassment and for like big battles and then also for like stalling your opponent and stuff like that. It's never a bad idea to go Reaver. So you will never hear me be like, no, Tastosis, he really shouldn't go Reaver. Because I literally can't think of a situation. I guess if your opponent goes 2 Starport Wraith, you should not. Which, of course, is not even a build against Protoss.
So, you know, for now, this is one thing that Protoss can do to try to, you know, get some of those SCVs off of the minerals is to attack this bunker. And, of course, you lose money when you have to repair as well. But right now, you know, very vanilla play here from Movie. Not that that's even bad, by the way. It's just like, you know, he's going to get the obs out. That means we probably are going to see a 3rd Nexus pretty quickly here. Keep in mind that when we saw Ruin play, and I think this was because of a lack of experience on the map, Ruin, like, expanded towards the Terran, which is really not something you want to be doing.
And look at Movie. He's expanding it about as far away as you can get, which that's a great expand. And whatever 2-fact pressure you do here as Mong, or whatever you do here as Mong, you have no way to actually threaten that base. That base is safe forever. Like he'll He should be able to mine that base out, Tasteless. It's so far away. It's ludicrous to think you can attack that.
And so we don't see the big tech reveal here if it's going to be Arbiters or Carriers, but that scan in the main, it pretty much says, yeah, he hasn't made that many more gates. You can kind of assume a third Nexus is coming down here. But the OBS gets to come in here. When Terran plays like this, you can see the eBay is late enough. It's never going to be one of these games where turrets can come down. So from here, I think any Protoss player is pretty relieved, right? By the way, the second scan also confirms no gateway explosion or any surprise tech. So he's going to come in here and see, especially with the 2 machine shop upgrades, there might be an attack inbound here pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, he's at least going to go out with those vultures. We see he's getting the armory as well, so he's not doing some sort of super aggro, like 4 to 5 factory play. And I mean, nor should he when you look at the situation with the observers on top of him. Instead, Mong makes an on-position command center for his third.
And that's pretty bold, but sometimes you can actually get away with that. I do want to point out that this is one of the types of games from Protoss where you're very vulnerable when you do this, because he didn't have to make a shuttle or a reaver, so there should be enough observers that clearing the map's not a problem. We see at least 3 observers so far in this game, 2 over the Terran's base, 1 here just kind of sweeping up mines. But the weird kind of circular nature of this map means maybe that is a pretty long distance to travel to try to punish that and still feel safe from vulture threats back at your home.
Yeah. No, I think you just nailed it right there. This is like Mong has no, it's exactly what you said. I'm not going to reword it or repackage it. But yeah, it's actually a really nice play, and it's fun getting used to Monopoly. This map is really interesting, the way that units rotate around it and how long it takes to go from one side to the other.
Yeah, there's a lot of traveling. I mean, if you really can't move through the middle of the map, it does, in a sense, make the map itself much bigger for the players and how they have to traverse it.
Yeah. And look, he is sending a group of goons down that other way, but there are mines to watch them incoming. And he's set up like a very strong front on the side that Movie would come from more naturally. Putting a couple depots down, turrets, some mines, siege tanks. I'm kind of digging this map, Tasteless. This is a really interesting one.
I know that we have Arbiter Tech coming. We saw the Templar Archives back there. But I wonder about carriers on this map because you can take advantage of the middle of the map. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if you can escape there, you could even expand there, to be honest, in a game like this if you had carriers.
Yes.
But
absolutely.
It is kind of an idea that I almost can't get out of my head as I watch this, because I've been doing all carrier builds. I kind of backed off of Arbiters unless it's like a very circumstantial moment where I just kind of feel like an Arbiter is an easy way to close the game out.
Yeah.
But it just does make me wonder, if you could really punish a Terran and try to control the map. Where, like, if they do try to attack you, you literally just get to counterattack and hit them with the carriers and then, fly back very quickly.
Yeah, I see what you're saying about that, and it seems all right for it, but I guess I look at the size of the main base and how open it is. Like, look at this 3 o'clock, right? Like, you have a huge, wide area that you have to defend against Arbiters, so I think recalls will be very, very good here. Especially when you look at how far the travel distance is. Like, imagine trying to get to the back of your main base here. When you're trying to attack Protoss and the recall, it's like...
That's a good point.
A long time to get back there.
So this is going to be a long one, it looks like. I mean, Terran has not committed to attacking out. I didn't actually check. Is it 2 armories? It should be, right?
Oh, I'd be shocked if he doesn't have 2. Yeah, I wasn't even looking for it, but he should have 2 armories here.
And I don't see 2 forges yet, but Protoss... there was a period where people would just get 1 forge, but I think we're at the point where, you pretty much need 2 forges. Like, all these things together. And he's going to go Arbiter into Carrier, which is actually very strong. I think it's a great way to play on the map, in general. But, getting 1 Arbiter out and basically setting up a recall, and then behind that, as those units are all traded out, you just start the first wave of carriers. I do think when you do this approach, you need to have several Stargates up. I think 2 is never enough. I think 3 is a minimum.
That makes sense, actually. Yeah, I like that because that transition is going to be a little bit rough, especially if you just traded units. Now, this is Mong doing the Terran recall, which takes several trips with the dropship, but he gets in here with 2 tanks and a good amount of vultures. Like, there's a good possibility he kills the Nexus here, right?
Oh, I think he probably will. It's one of these moments for Protoss where you're like, oh my god, did he actually get in here? Now I'm locked out of my own base and everything. It's annoying, man. Now he is, I think, going to kill off the pylon so he can actually get in here. So he will save the Nexus. But big annoying moment. I mean, all the workers were killed. It's a moment Protosses don't want to deal with.
Now, look at that middle base. Movie has dropped off a probe and is, in fact, taking it, which I think is like a smart play, especially if he is going to go into those carriers. Like, Mong does have a dropship, so maybe he can harass it some.
Oh my god.
Ooh. But yeah, in general in this matchup, you don't really get air transports. Oh my god, wait, did he actually kill all those goons?
Yeah, I was like...
and he has a tank in here?
It's kind of crazy. Well, this is the thing, man. Spider mines are pretty good if you're not, like, actually watching. All the Dragoons are killed off, and, this is a real backfiring moment here. Gosh, the main is so much bigger than I even realized until we actually flew over it.
No, it's huge. It's a huge, huge main base.
But again, I'm kind of happy, though, that, we are having carrier tech because I was just, looking at this map, it just seems like you can both cover your main base and... or your middle base, not your main base, excuse me, this middle base here, and probably fire attacks out from that there as well.
But unfortunately, like, he's taking this base, which I think in theory is really a good base when you're going for this type of tech, but he doesn't have multiple shuttles or anything. Like, if he went speed shuttles, I think you can take it right away because a Terran dropship will never measure up to mass speed shuttle. But other than that, like, I guess he just kind of got caught with his hand in the cookie jar because he doesn't have carriers yet. And now he's lost, like, 2 bases, Tasteless, to, like, 1 dropship.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I have experienced this in my games where, like, 1 dropship starts to really get out of hand, Like, I thought my 1 control group could come back and actually deal with this. Oh, my God, big recall coming in here. Bam.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Now, this is a pain. Okay, he's going to try to get up there with his army. Of course, he will be able to clear this, but let's see how much damage is dealt. Like, a lot of SCVs are starting to fall. And this is so annoying. How many depots is he going to get? I don't think the armory's up there, so that's good. Terrans have finally gotten smart enough to never put their armories where the recalls
Yeah,
go.
you should always have your armories at your natural. That should just always be the thing. It's harder for the Protoss to scout with the obs often, and it's like... the moment I see armories there, I'm like, good. I'm licking my lips. I'm so excited to kill that off.
Yeah. Another drop at the 3rd base, so very annoying here. That pylon wall working against him once again. But Movie has killed a lot of depots. Kind of annoying here for Mong. He's supply blocked at 167.
So, just looking at the way this game is, oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, I feel like Mong is in such a insane winning position. Like, Protoss recalled there and, like, maybe made some of the depots catch on fire. Like, if you're just going to get in there and kill all that, then...
Well, that move, I think, is very good as a tempo-based move, like killing the depots. But his economy has been destroyed, and, like, he doesn't have the money to refill. So I think that wasn't... Right, if you're being attacked, maybe the recall to force them back while you get the carriers. But in this situation, this doesn't seem like a really great move. Because he doesn't...
recall,
what does he have behind it?
The recall would have been good if the bottom left base was still there, and he would have had the funds to do it. And there is a point in time where if the Terran's actually prepared, like, the recalls aren't very strong anymore, and they're pretty hard to pull off. Like, we see a science vessel over here. I mean, there is, like, some micro tricks where, like, the Protoss can try to dodge it. But look, if he just comes out here with this vessel and finds the Arbiter, he's just going to go, boop, and you're reset.
Yeah, going to be a while before the next recall, but he does have his carriers out now. Way down in supply, not a very strong economy. He has taken another base, but where are the Goliaths? I guess he didn't realize that this was a switch into carriers.
Yeah, this is sort of a classic StarCraft moment of the surprise carrier tech. I see, like, 2 Goliaths, so...
Yeah.
And now I see none, so I don't even know what to say.
Okay, like, it seems like he saw this coming just a little bit before, but the first round of Goliaths is finally getting out there. And so Mong will not die to it.
Terran has like so much on the map right now. I mean, it's really the point where Terran's kind of gotten out of hand. Now, he can keep winning fights over here. This is worth pointing out. You know, carriers can kind of be microed infinitely, and as long as you're pretty attentive with them, especially when they get high enough in numbers where you just click on the Goliath and it disappears. And, you know, when you get up to about 8, that really is that number. And so this is 6 up here. And I know he had 4 Stargates. I think 1 is actually committed to just making Arbiters, but I think at least 3 carriers coming out at a time. If he can get this up to a high enough number and really upgrade the air attack, I mean, like get +2 or +3 here. By the way, if you get armor for air units, does that include interceptors?
Yeah.
It does. Okay, I actually didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I imagine he's going to get as many upgrades as possible. Does lose a carrier there. I believe there's one that's red as well. Now, a counterattack from Mong onto this new 4th base location, and that'll be knocked out very easily. Only a couple cannons for defense. Seems like Movie does not have a whole lot going on right now. He is bringing his entire army, though, and Mong is pretty out of position at the moment.
Yeah, Mong is like all the way on the left side of the map, and this is that circular feature we were kind of mentioning back here where it's like, it's actually quite a distance to travel to the location on the map that you don't start on, just depending on what the spawns are here. So he's got stuff coming back, but you can see the ground army's kind of rallied here. I do think in the long run, Terran can kind of beat this. I think Terran just has more utility and assets and all that on the map. But, you know, carriers are a funny thing. Sometimes you can get in certain situations, and let's say the carriers are able to snipe all the tanks, which is usually how you want to do it. You want to try to target these tanks down. If you get the tanks low enough, then you send the ground army back in there.
Yeah, now that 3rd base has fallen as well, so Movie is barely mining at this point. He does have, like, a pretty substantial supply. He has a good carrier count. But you know, if he could have kept like 1 more base up during this, I feel like he's made some really questionable decisions where, you know, the timing of expanding the center, you know, all these tanks just rolled through the left side and killed 2 bases when he has a bunch of carriers. And his carriers are fighting Goliaths while tanks are killing his bases. And it's kind of like, I think that if he had played this a little bit differently, there were more chances for him to be ahead here.
What do you think about Terran mining out over time? I mean, that can be a factor in these scrappy games from Protoss where the carrier count is still pretty big. Like, if you get enough carriers, for instance, to where you're like on 10 or 12 carriers, you can just have 1 mining base and basically be flying around with this, like, death fleet and just sniping stuff. And if you're still soaking some minerals and gas, you're okay. Is there a chance that Terran just sort of mines out here?
Honestly, I don't think so. I think Mong already has enough, and he can just expand so far from the carriers that it becomes really difficult.
Oh, this is pretty crazy.
Get anything done. Is he going to recall in here as well? Yeah, he is. There's a lot of mines in here, though.
So crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Look at this. I mean, you're right. This whole place is littered with mines, so I don't know how far he's going to get. But, you know, one of the issues when you're fighting carriers is it's the ground army for Protoss. It can be very puny, and it still makes things way more complicated for the Terran.
Yeah. But at this point, it really feels like Movie's pretty much dead. I think it's time to do the ladder Protoss thing and target comm stats and then just make mass DTs.
Yeah.
Oh, he did! He targeted the comm stat Tasteless.
He's a pro, man.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Goliaths are just going to rip through this. And he knows if he just gets the carrier count low enough, then the Goliaths can kill the interceptors. And this is actually enough Goliaths, you could just kill the interceptors. So I think we're going to see Movie just tap out here. And look, I think he might have been the weakest player in this season of the ASL.
Yeah.
Mong comes out on top. I think Mong played very well. I kind of leave that game with more questions than answers because that map is so intriguing to me.
Yeah. The
cool
map
stuff.
is cool. Like, I'm actually really starting to dig it. I kind of hope that it gets into the next ladder season we have in 2024.
Yeah, that would be a fun one to have. I might be too chicken to play on it, but we'll see.
Nothing Tasteless. My 2024 Blizzard doesn't update the ladder joke. Come on.
Yeah. This is when we're really good at Eclipse. Like, we know so much about Eclipse. It's crazy.
So true.
Up next, guys, it's going to be Mong versus SoulKey. This is going to be the final match. They had a pretty crazy and epic game before. SoulKey did come out on top. It was Mong going bio, and then a late transition into mech. I don't know what's going to happen on this one, but it should be pretty cool. And we'll be going to that break, I think, now. So, guys, sit tight. Don't go away. We're going to be right back with that final game for the round of 24 and see who survives and goes on to the round of 16.
Streets nobody wants to go through. Earn these stripes made of lines that can't be. I'll be coming up hot for a minute. Everybody know the drop when I'm in it. Everybody know the drop when I'm in it. I'll be coming up hot for a minute.
힘들어도
어려워도 이렇게 멈추면 내가 아니지.
오늘이 뭐야?
새로운 날을 만든다.
나의 레벨은 다르다. 어나더 레벨 핫6.
어려워도 이렇게 멈추면 내가 아니지. 오늘이 모여 새로운 날을 만든다. 나의 레벨은 다르다. 어나더 레벨
ASL 시즌 13 Unlimited.
Welcome back, guys. The final game of the final group. This is going to be a fun one. I think SoulKey is a little bit favored, but Mong is very good. I think a couple things go differently in their previous game, and Mong would have come out on top. Mong showing that he is very much comfortable with switching into late game mech. I think it's actually a pretty hard way, a good skill to have a hard thing to pull off. But, a lot of that map, I think, did come down to the fact that it was Eclipse. And, when you do go mech, it's kind of hard to control both sides of the map.
Yeah, that's fair. Actually, what are they playing Revolver?
I didn't actually see.
I kind of glanced, but I was listening to you, which I normally don't do, so that was definitely a mistake. But I guess we'll see in a moment what map it is. But, yeah, I would like to see him try to get into that mech, because I think that SoulKey is... Again, I've mentioned before multiple times, I think he might be the actual best Zerg vs. Terran player out there. He's just so masterful. And if you try to go bio against him, it's really, really tough. He can be beaten, but I feel like you've got to be like Light or Rush or JYJ right, to beat him straight up with bio.
Oh, it's Vermeer.
Oh, Vermeer!
Vermeer. Okay, so this is going to be definitely a different map from Eclipse. Let's see. I mean, I don't know if Mong is going to go mech. I'm just saying, if you see him do it once in a group, he can definitely do it again. SoulKey, though, again, looking very strong, very on top of his play. And we're ready, guys. Let's wrap up the round of 24, and let's leave on a high note, man. Mong and SoulKey are going to close it out for us. Let's see who actually survives to the next stage of ASL.
범위호에서 게임을 시작합니다.
So we have Mong in the top right. And SoulKey in the bottom right.
And SoulKey right down there.
Yeah, there he is.
And there
All
he is.
right, let's get into it. Yeah, I don't have any strong opinions on this map yet.
Yeah, I don't know.
It takes a little bit to get used to the new maps, especially the ones that are actually a little bit more bland, to find out where they're actually really different. Whereas Monopoly, it took us a few games, but now I'm like, okay, I get it. This is super cool, right? Like, it's a really different map. Like, I'm sure if this was on ladder for as long as Eclipse, we'd lose our minds. But it's really cool to see the pros play on it right now. Whereas this one seems a bit more standard. But of course, over time, there's going to be aspects of this map that kind of stand out as like, oh, this is kind of the interesting part where you have a lot of battles here or something.
Sure, yeah. It's funny. It takes time, right? Like, any new map that comes out, there's always a little bit of it's always a little bit intimidating, right? And then you play, hundreds of games on that, and then you start to really get acquainted with all these little parts of the map, these little features, these things you can exploit, these things you want to watch out for. You have a kind of a routine for where you put all your buildings. And so I do welcome these maps. I actually like these new maps quite a bit compared to some of the maps we've had in years past, where it's like some completely insane person is like, what if we made StarCraft maybe not fun? And
yeah, I know.
know?
Yeah.
You thought this was the best game in the world? Try playing it on Sparkle. See if you like it then. So I think these are, overall, I look at these maps and I'm like, this is cool. All right, let's see if see if Blizzard throws these in the map pool eventually if we get a new season, and let's see what happens on them.
Mm-hmm. Well, Mong is opening with the same 8 racks with wall opener that we saw previously. So I wouldn't be surprised if this game ends up looking like exactly the same as the last one, right? Like maybe he goes directly into one of these Valkyrie tank pushes. And switches into mech. Like, this might just be kind of the build that he has prepped for this group.
So the drone does get that pushed back. Yeah, and this, we saw this happen before. I think SoulKey barely came out with a lead because he didn't lose that last drone. You usually do want to have a spot where you can kind of right-click on minerals to have them move through, and I don't see any spot like that set up here for SoulKey. He doesn't really have, like, a mining move here, but he is going to come in here, and the surface area is pretty good for these drones, but a nice juke from that one Marine there by Mong. He's going to be able to trap this one Marine here and get the kill with ease.
Can he save that very red drone? He sends it way far away. Okay, loses a second drone. So far this isn't... Oh, a third drone. A fourth drone. Dude. Oh, no. This was... Like... And here's the thing, 2 drones versus 4 drones, it's not twice as good. This was actually about 5 times better for Mong than the game against Jaedong. Because not only did he kill twice as many drones, but he didn't lose any SCVs. He lost 2 SCVs against Jaedong. And still we looked at that and said, okay, maybe slight edge to Jaedong. But here, like, Mong is ahead of SoulKey. That is a way better opener for him.
Oh, yeah. And by the way, I think I might have misspoke earlier. I don't know what's wrong with my brain today. I think I said that these guys were having a rematch or something when, like, it was actually Jaedong. I'm sorry, everybody. Like, sometimes this happens to me when I cast where I just, like, make up things in my head. You're right, though.
Tastosis only knows best
players.
in snow. Those are the only players that Tastosis.
That's it, yeah. And I'm like,
everyone else is the same.
Jaedong and Queen, they're so confusing to me who's who. I have no idea. Like, I thought they were just different IDs for Queen, man. No, but yeah, for some reason in my head for a second, I'm like, yeah, this is a rematch, so let's see what went down. But yeah, here we are.
Yep. So Mong right now just kind of roaming the map with those 4 Marines, pushing back some of these Zerglings and whatnot, trying to force a little bit more out as well. SoulKey has the gas that is natural, making the layer in that main. And actually, I want to pop into that main base and just check if that was an eBay. I kind of wasn't looking at that part of it. 3rd hatch in main base here for SoulKey. And
yeah,
that, I think, is needed. Remember when Jaedong made the hatchery over at the 3rd base? This, like, it went worse for SoulKey, so this is like a more stable play, and honestly, SoulKey's better at this type of play, too. Because this gives you, like, a little bit higher unit counts, and SoulKey's the type of player where if he has, like, a decent-sized army in the mid-game, he does very well with it.
Yeah, he's very good at fighting, So that Ling actually comes in here. This is a pretty big scout. He sees the eBay. I don't know that he saw the Academy at the top right, but I think, the Academy is never a surprise to scout in this matchup. 4 Marine's going to come down. He could edge in here and just snipe a drone. Yeah, look at this. And a good run around here, too, with these Marines.
Wow.
If you don't have speedlings, Marines are actually much more of a threat. Keep in mind that, okay, I was going to say.
I was surprised you walked in on that. That was pretty obviously going to finish and beat him.
I kind of like went with the play-by-play in my head where I was going to say keep in mind that, when that finishes, it gets 100 HP less. Creep Colony 400, Sunken Colony 300. So I was like, maybe he knows. Maybe his Marines do damage faster than I thought, but no.
Yeah, not this one. Okay, so Mong actually is playing pretty out of his mind. Like, I think he's really far ahead of SoulKey right now. And his follow-up build is going to be very, very good here. The quick +1, as well as going up to 4 Raxes against what SoulKey is doing here, which is 3rd hatch in main. SoulKey's build is going to give him some more units to be able to play with, but Mong's build is going to give him more units to play with. And since the damage was already done to SoulKey, I only see advantages for Mong here. Not that SoulKey is dead right now, but I mean, if I was allowed to bet on the game right now, I would bet on Mong.
Yeah, no, I think right now Mong is, if this is a race, he's a little bit ahead, right?
I think he's more than a little bit. It's not huge, but like very comfortable.
But we got to see what happens when the mutas come into play here as well, because if the Zerg starts to control that well, this can even out, or even the Zerg gets ahead very quickly.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you get some good swipes, the turrets aren't ready in a certain location, or you catch the army like moving poorly, yeah, you can definitely win that right back. And that's something that SoulKey's fantastic at as well.
So he's going to send this barracks now from the natural, float that into the main. He wants to have more fluid movement in and out from this point in time. You know, like we saw in the the other game, and I don't know if he's going to go mech from here or not, but for this phase of the game, the Terran is now ready to try to roam. The Zerg is going to try to generate counter threats here by hitting the main or making the Terran feel unsafe by having the Marines have to come back in here. And of course, behind this, Zerg wants to get a third base.
Yeah, we'll see when he takes it. I think he wants to take the bottom left. I think we saw him send something there. Now, look at this. SoulKey's actually jumping upon the turret that's on the barracks. And Mong does turn around. So this move turns out to be very, very good from SoulKey. And, of course, as the Marines come up, he does have to back out of there. More turrets are going to have to be built. But already, I mean, that's really nice from SoulKey, right? You're kind of testing. Is Mong actually going to go across the map, or is he just pretending he's going to go across the map?
In a game that's looking super ordinary like this one, right? Does the Zerg want to get any upgrades on the mutas? Is there any reason to do that?
Oh, I actually don't know the answer to that, Tastosis. Like, I feel like it's a stylistic thing, but I'm sure that someone like Soma could break down the math behind the position and be like, oh, here you definitely want +1 or whatever. But yeah, I think it has to do with how many mutas you want to make. And how you want to engage them. One thing I can say is +1 attack is much more trendy than +1 armor currently in Zerg vs. Terran.
Is that right?
Yeah, much more. It used to be +1 armor was pretty popular to help you fight the Marines better, but nowadays people just want the damage output.
Yeah, that makes sense. So the Marines are once again out. The mutas come in there, snipe down a turret, so another one will have to be remade here. But right now, Mong's basically saying, no, you know what? Let's start this push. He's coming out. The Lings are going to basically try to track the Marines and where they're at. I don't see more than one Sunken colony here, and I think we need at least 2 more, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think it's probably a good choice. You need 2 to 3. And if you have 2 to 3 and the Mutalisk Micro, that's enough to hold this off pretty easily. Now we have Siege Tank on the way. I bet you that's a Valkyrie. I think he's going to do exactly the same play, man.
It's like he's on ladder right now. This is laddering in Group F here. Brought out the exact same strat. I mean, I guess it's not wrong. I don't know, that SoulKey is, was expecting to see this either, but this is kind of cool. Let's see if the Valkyrie does come out with the rest of this.
Yeah, it definitely looks like it's going to. Now, there are a lot of Lings out for SoulKey. SoulKey is looking to destroy this army. Notice how he keeps the mutas in between the rally point and the Marines. So, yeah, he wants to kill this off. He comes up with the flank. Beautifully done. Reduces that army to nothing. And this is what SoulKey is so good at. He eliminates armies in the middle of the map more often than any other Zerg in the world.
Yeah, I mean, he just completely decimates these armies. It comes out so far ahead that you've got to be worried, for the Terran here, because when you have extremely uneven trades where you basically just lose everything, at the top level, you're probably not allowed to leave your base anymore, right?
Well, and this is so painful, because if you take the Marines he just lost and add it into the army he has right now, SoulKey's army can't stop it.
Right.
It crushes, because Terran is all about hitting critical mass. And he would have had it with the 2 Valkyries and that many Marines. It would have been like 2.5 groups of Marines and like 4 or 5 medics. Or even more than that now. I see 5 medics there. Dude, like he would have probably rolled through. But to lose that group out front, suddenly this is all in question. Like, if SoulKey produces units nonstop, he can hold on. I don't think he has to die to this push.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. Look at this. He's going to try to come around. They do go back. He could end up sniping those fire bats. Okay, gets one, backs up. He does drop some mutas in the process. But, these Valkyries, man, it's kind of hard to turn in an arc with the mutas. Scourge coming out now. Oh, this is wild. He's going to do a cross-map push.
Oh, that is wild.
That is
Maybe he's
crazy.
just trying to chase. Oh! Oh, my God! 2 Valkyries?
So crazy.
Oh, that's... Dude, Mong loses a lot of Valkyries, we've noticed today. I think we need to have an intervention with how many Valkyries he's losing. He just needs to keep those things alive.
This is like what he does, but a lot of this is hinged on like keeping the Valkyrie alive. You know what I mean? So
Dude, if you have
the
3
fact that he's done
Valkyries
it again.
here, oh. Yeah, Mong is just bleeding units off around the map right now. That being said, I don't think like SoulKey has won this game by any means. I think it's like I do want. Oh, a Vulture's out. Okay, he's going mech.
Yeah. That has to be what's going on here. I think that there's a big chance that SoulKey's just going to keep this base up here. This is a lot of lurkers. Again, there's no vessel here. I don't know that the tanks can safely go up here. Great Dark Swarm there on the ramp. And so we now start to go into a late game here.
Mong trying to take his 3rd base. Looks like some Ling's going to cancel that immediately. So nice little catch there from SoulKey. And this is a really big map, Tasteless. But one thing I want to say is if this like just goes into like a pretty standard mech versus Zerg game, the layout of the map, you can do those defensive bases where you have a bunch of tanks on the high ground of a main to take the natural, right? Like that top left. And that, like, when you get a certain number of siege tanks with some turrets and stuff, Zerg can't attack into it. Like, they have to find some other way, like drops or go into queens
or something.
Yeah. So that might end up being how this game ends up going.
Yeah, let's see. I mean, 12 o'clock's being taken here. We should point out this is a huge map that's very, very open. So I think that Terran's going to have a hard time pushing across without getting flanked. You know how mech, a lot of times you want to try to fight in these narrow corridors because they can't surround your tanks and all that? I mean, this is an extremely open map.
Yeah. And that could be a little bit difficult. But Mong has good experience going mech against Zerg. Actually, he is the player that I saw do this very special tactic on Circuit Breakers way back, where he went like mass mech after a bio switch, and then eventually late game he got a group of Wraiths. So he had all his tanks everywhere, but the Wraiths kind of stopped drops, they stopped queens, they sniped stuff. It was like a very cool take on late game mech. So he's kind of a creative player with some of these things.
Sure. Well, I enjoy kind of exploring this territory as a caster, you know, and kind of seeing what can and cannot be done with this. He's not lifted off those barracks, by the way, which I find interesting. You know, you need the room for the factories, but also if you're not going to make infantry, normally those are used to kind of float and survey what the Zerg's doing. But maybe he wants to have the option to go back to bio. I don't know.
Well, if he's not upgrading it right now, I think he won't go back, but he could, like, make a couple rounds if he needs it, right? Like, the bio is still useful at this point. Eventually it won't be because it will be lacking upgrades, but, like, right now, +1 bio, like, maybe he feels like he still needs it. Or also one of the things that can come into mind is you might want your opponent to not know you're going mech, right? Like, he could have 2 builds where they look similar. And SoulKey has to think about that, right? Where it's like, okay, well, we haven't seen the barracks. As soon as you see barracks flying in the map, you know. Because it's not like you just make extra barracks and fly them to scout, you know?
Yeah, that is that is not a thing. So let's do a big zoom out here of this game. We've got the Zerg on the 4 bases, right? So that's pretty strong versus mech as it is. But it's going to be, I think, not that hard for the Zerg to go up to 6 bases, right? I mean, look at the 2 bases that are also in between this. And
yeah, those are like free. You're right.
Yeah,
about that.
I don't see any difficulty at all for the Zerg to take that as well. And I don't really think it's going to be easy for the Zerg to come in and break the quadrant that Terran already controls, right?
Well, I mean, Mong is on 4 bases right now, and as he adds more and more factories, and he's doing some good map control. Like, I like some things about this game more than the game against Jaedong, where, for instance, he has some bio with vessels still roaming about, So he's getting a few irradiates off here and there, and you know, like a group of vultures, you don't look at that and say, oh, that could do serious damage. Like, yeah, it can kill some drones, but that's about it. Whereas this Bioforce, oh, well, you better watch out, right? He comes in, irradiates a couple lurkers, and then suddenly he can actually kill buildings with it. So it's you know, it's kind of giving him more map activity than what we saw in that Jaedong game.
And I mean, I don't see any way this game can end Artosis, at least not for a while, man. I mean, they're just so far from each other. All the newer bases Zerg's taking, like I talked about the two at the bottom center. He's actually going to take the one just above the bottom left spawning location. This is going to be quite the game.
Now, a couple of Overlords, when he irradiates those, okay, yeah, I was going to say, that means he thinks that those are drop lords, and they were, in fact. SoulKey was coming up. They probably had a Defiler in one of those as well. And this is one of the better tactics you can use against mech, is dropping a Defiler as well as a Lurker, just to stop mining at a base, right? Because you could have 50 Siege Tanks there. If it gets burrowed under the Dark Swarm, it's not going to die. So, really good tactic coming out of SoulKey. And that's something I think we can expect to see over and over again this game.
And, you know, from the Zerg's perspective, are you trying to draw the game out here, or are you trying to figure out a way to end the game? And same thing for Terran, because this I'm not familiar with, right? These super long games, and usually there's a role for each race, given what they can get, how they can expand, what is hard to do. What do you think?
Well, I think that it's kind of a new era of mech in a lot of ways. And I think it's really important to kind of stay active. Like, if you're just sitting there, that's not the way to do it as Terran with mech anymore. Once upon a time, you just kind of absorb, but Zergs have gotten pretty good at busting you up. And we can see that SoulKey, like, his idea here is drops. And it's probably like Defiler, Ling, Lurker, Ultra are the units that he is going to be focusing on trying to drop out rather than go for Mass Queens, which isn't a bad play, because if you actually, like, knock down the main base, that's amazing, but also, Mong hasn't taken top left. And he will have to eventually take top left, because I don't think there's any way for him to kill SoulKey before that, right? Like, the game seems like it's going to get drawn out. And since you already have drops really super active, I think that makes it extra hard to set up top left. Because if you start setting up, they can just start dropping.
What about Zerg taking top left?
I mean, he could try. It's pretty far away to reinforce, you know? You'd have to get a Nidus up there.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You get a Nidus in the main, and, you know, maybe... Then it's really not far at all, man. It's just as easy to defend as the bottom right, you know?
Yeah, I guess you have to clear what's up there, get a hatchery up, and then get the Nidus up. And if you can do all that, then yeah, I mean, Nidus kind of makes everything close by, but that in and of itself is a little bit tricky. Oh, Ultra's against mines, man.
Yeah, they are going to get in here, though. Start to take out some of this stuff. It's weird, too, because a lot of times we'll talk about who's trading efficiently, but there's, like, so much map here that I, like, don't even know if that's as much of a factor yet, right?
Yeah, he does get those vessels, so that's actually a really nice pickoff. Anytime that vessels are sitting there with mech, too, you're feeling pretty damn good as Terran.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to defend him because you don't have much anti-air, right? So when Scourge start coming in, it's like, Goliaths actually do not kill Scourge quickly at all. But nice clear here on that base. Not that efficient for SoulKey, though, that's for sure.
So Zerg's also taken down the bottom. This is such a crazy game. And Mong's really brought us into this, by the way. But now I'm wondering what does a bio game even look like on a map like this, too. I almost feel like bio might be better, because at least you could contain them on the 4 bases, right? I mean, here the Zerg does kind of get to run amok at the bottom, right?
Yeah, I don't know what you can really do against those bases. Like, he's running vultures around and stuff, but, like, you can't send smaller groups in to kill it. Like, mech moves as a mass, you know? Where you need a lot of siege tanks so that Dark Swarm does not just stop you dead in your tracks. Basically, every time they try to move forward with the Dark Swarm, you need to super punish that. So, like, you get moves like this, the Vulture run-in, but, like, yeah, see that Ultra going in there? That Ultra will kill all those Vultures. So it's like, okay, well, we can send stuff in there, but it doesn't Like, you're not going to kill the base. It's not like Bio where I get a group of Marines in there and the hatchery dies before you can get there.
Yeah, this is, it's funny seeing all these mines get littered down here like this, right? Like, you know, the vultures are pretty much free when you're meching, if that makes sense. And then 3 spider mines is actually a lot. So, you know, it is maybe in kind of big picture stuff, you're going to get so much value out of just having spider mines everywhere because they can catch ultras and lurkers and defilers and lings.
Ooh, he's actually going to get on top of everything here. That was actually strangely efficient for SoulKey. Like, those 4 ultras and the lings cleared everything. They killed like 6 tanks and like all the vultures there. I mean, it will get cleared up, but moves like that are really, really good. I feel like Mong is maybe spending too many vultures on harassment. One thing I really like when I see it with mech is after you lay the mines, keep your vultures out in front of them. Because the way that Zerg likes to clear is they just kind of send in lings. And if you have some vultures in front of the minefields, they catch the lings, and you kind of force them to send a ton of lings in. So you can get more and more efficient.
Yeah, this is kind of crazy. The mines are slowly getting cleared out here, man. If they don't get filled in, I think he can come in here again and pounce on this base. What, it's 3 tanks again, right? Yeah, just 3.
Yeah, once again, very, very annoying here to deal with. So the Ultra will be able to clear out all these tanks, but of course the reinforcements will come up, knock that out as well.
So if we had to kind of, you know, project where this game's going to go, I do worry the Zerg is just going to keep taking bases, and the Terran can't really as easily secure the top left. At this point in time, Zerg's income is going to get so ridiculous.
Yeah, he's got a lot of supply right now, man. And look at this. He's actually filled up some overlords, and he's going towards the left. Yeah, SoulKey taking that 9 o'clock base. And we saw an SCV go to the top left, and SoulKey saw that too. So this is, I think we're getting to the moment that I was kind of fearing for Mong, where you can't actually kill SoulKey like this. Like, you're going to have to take half map and, like, grind him down because he's just got too much. But how do you take the top left? Because SoulKey has a lot of ways to attack right now.
Well, I mean, the thing is, as well, is, like, if SoulKey just gets a Nidus in the top left, presumably the main, but, like, anywhere in the top left, even if it's not where minerals are at, I think that is actually checkmate. Because right now the Zerg has more bases than a Zerg is ever supposed to be allowed to have in the matchup. You know, and no, this isn't bio, but I think even if it was bio, I mean, with this many bases, you know,
you'd never
just only make ultras, you know?
The game would already be over. Like, you just literally would never get to this type of base count, only against matchup.
Yeah, but because siege tanks can space out like this and, you know, kind of smush these ultras as they come out, the game's going to be drawn out. But I think that we're kind of getting to a point where the Zerg is... I mean, this happens, you know, if Protoss gets the entire map, you know, against Terran, it's the same kind of issue where it's like, well, the siege tanks can probably still kill the whole army if they attack incorrectly, but if Protoss usually gets that far along, you're probably, if you're dealing with a really good player, you know, you've basically let them get out of hand, and now it's going to be too hard to recover from.
Yeah, but let's take into consideration as well. It's like 8 base versus 5 base right now, and the thing is that SoulKey, while he has more bases, 5 base Terran, you can't even mine from more than that. You know, like your SCV count, you're basically fine there.
Yeah,
and so like as long as he eventually, like before he starts running out, expands towards that top left, then he can still equalize everything that SoulKey's doing, because they actually probably have a very similar worker count.
Now, can Terran... I don't know. Is it... I was going to say, can Terran push? I wish you guys could see me trying to cast this. I'm squinting at the screen and my arms are folded. Like, I'm trying to figure out, like, and speculate, like, what can be done right now from this weird position.
Well, yeah, no, it's a weird one for sure, but honestly, I think you're supposed to take half the map, and I like how forward he is on the right side, because it protects the bases behind that are his main production. but also it puts pressure on SoulKey to do things. Because, like, it's so hard to actually go forward and kill the Zerg player. They have so many different weapons and options here and defilers and all that. So, like, I swear, like, most mech games, you either die or you get, like, half the map and grind them down.
Yeah.
Like, look at how efficient he can be if he's sieged into position. He just killed so many ultras there.
Yeah, well, he takes out those tanks. Crazy what cracklings can do, man, when they actually start to attack something.
Oh, he's trying it, Tasteless. He's trying to get that base you want him to get.
Well, I think that's the play. I think the easiest way to win this for SoulKey is to actually hide a hatch up there. Not even like where the minerals are, just like...
I like the idea. Yeah, if you hide one in the side.
Yeah, just get 2 Niduses, one from each of the other corners of the map that you have, and start unloading stuff there, because Terran is going to be mining from these other bases for a while, but if you can just kind of spring attacks from that location, I think it's too much to deal with.
All right, another big attack coming in. Looks like he should be able to force a liftoff here on that right base once again. I was going to say right o'clock base.
Right o'clock, dude.
Yeah. It's right o'clock somewhere, Tasteless.
That's so funny.
All right, so some plagues going down on the vessels, on the siege tanks as well. Looks like this base not going to be mining anymore, but Mong did take another base here. He floated the command center over. Already has his SCVs there, so that's really good. Starting to spread out. You know what?
I mean, this is kind of wild. I mean, he's actually attacking across. I do worry that this is like how Mong could lose the game, though, right? These are like high-value units. You were right, Artosis. Goliaths are not good for a Scourge, by the way.
No, you can't kill Scourge with them.
It's like before the missiles even left the shoulders of the Goliath, the Scourge has already hit its target. It's actually pretty hilarious.
Honestly, like when I play mech against Zerg and I have some vessels, I just try to judge if the Zerg knows that Goliaths can't kill Scourge, and then I hide the vessels somewhere. Because it's like, if they know, the vessels all die. And if they don't know, it's so powerful. But it looks like he is taking down this base. He didn't quite kill the hatchery at the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The 7th base he didn't quite kill. But the 8th... Oh, the 8th is actually still alive. Look at that. So he's spent a lot of units on this and hasn't gotten it.
I do feel like as this game goes on, we are starting to really understand these unit compositions and how they interact with each other, you know?
Yeah, this has to be weird looking for a Protoss player. You're so used to playing against this Terran army, but seeing the Zerg units try to do it.
Yeah. Well, it's really funny, right? Like, I'm just not. This is like not a game I can cast, so like I'm trying to think of things I can add that are of value. You know what I mean? And I'm like, well, I'm not totally clear on what you can and can't do. I do think though, if Zerg can't stop Terran from taking this top left place, it's going to be a big issue, man.
Yeah, if you can get that and hold it. The thing is, at that point, you're pretty well stretched. I actually really appreciate the way that Mong has gone about this, where he's kind of like mining out a lot of the right and then moving towards the left, because if you stretch yourself too thin and they start getting like drops everywhere and they like seesaw the action from one side to the other, that becomes, you know, really, really difficult for Terran to deal with. But he's kind of like, his focus has been on the right, and now his focus is shifting to the left, where he's expanding but attacking in front of it. It's a really kind of novel approach to mech in this matchup.
This is one of the funny things too, is if you just think about this as a ladder game, like let's say this goes on for like an hour and 15 minutes and Terran wins, then Terran can be 4-pulled the next game and just lose the points right back and people
probably lose more, Tastosis. He wins 14 for this game, loses 21 against the 4-pull.
It's like one of these moments I just think of like, wow, like some games you really got to work to win, like really, like just not all victories are made equally in RTS, and like someone is going to come out victorious here. There's still so many bases with minerals to mine from, and nobody seems to clearly have like, you know, clearly be close to ending the game, and so.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
it's still a crazy game. Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's going towards Mong though.
I think you're right.
Like, I think SoulKey is getting less and less efficient with his attacks. and they seem a bit more desperate now as well.
I agree. I think that, this is kind of a one-of-a-kind game. Like, I don't think SoulKey gets to play these kind of games as much as Mong does. Mong clearly, this is what he does. He does, tank Valkyrie timing, and then when it doesn't work, he's like, that's it, we're going mech. But I think SoulKey, for probably literally 10 minutes, had, opportunities to try to just get the position at the top left, and maybe this is easier because I'm casting it, so I kind of just see everything. But I think really all Zerg has to do is become Protoss. I mean, this is a Terran meching, right? And a lot of times the way the Protoss beats the Terran meching is you get both the other starting locations. I think that's what needed to happen here, is that you need to get a Nidus up there and just, unload infinite units there, and almost play like you're like a turtle or like a crab, like in your shell, and just when the Terran gets close, you come out and you attack, and then when the Terran doesn't attack, you just go back into your shell,
Yeah, at this point, though, he's kind of put himself into a position, I think, for SoulKey, where he must kill either top left or top right. Like, you have to get rid of the production, or you have to get rid of the economy.
Yeah.
This
you're right.
attack here, it's like, okay, yeah, I mean, it's fine. It's just a group of Lings that we see going in there. And these moves can be good. But when you're doing this, you're not doing anything to win the game. You're just kind of slowing Mong a little bit. Oh, look at him micro vultures against an Ultra. What is he doing? Come on.
It's funny because, this base that really has been a focal point for a lot of attacks, it operates as a good buffer so that the main can't be dropped. Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
It's like the fact that that's there is really keeping, a massive amount of Overlords and Cracklings and Lurkers and Ultras and Defilers from just dropping the main and then maybe taking the game that way.
Yeah, totally. Oh, well, that is one way to really win against mech. If you can kill their main base, like rebuilding the depots and flying the factories over, you're so far behind at that point.
You know what player I'm thinking of when I watch this game? I don't think I've said this guy's ID in a long time, but remember Evade, the American player, the American Terran?
Yeah.
This was like what his games looked like.
Well, they look like this, except he would have about 700 turrets right now.
Yes, there would be turrets galore. And I remember, we would go to tournaments. This guy was, a top American player, but, tournaments would try to disqualify him because the games would go on for too long. They're, looking in the rule book. They're like, no, you can't disqualify him.
Yeah, you literally can't do that.
Yeah, it's actually not fair. This is a way to play the game, and it is probably going to cause your venue to break the law because we're going to be here all night, and you can't be open that late, but this is actually a way to play the game.
Well, Mong doesn't have... He's an amateur at turrets compared to Evade, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, Evade would have way more.
There would actually be so many turrets that, you guys would, it was actually comical on the turrets he would make.
It would look like the map had the worst acne ever.
They'd be everywhere. All right, the drops are starting to fly in. There's not much anti-air here, is there? So he actually may find some ways in. A few Goliaths and some vessels going over. Look, I think he's going for that main base kill. And look at this. SoulKey's supply is going up. Oh, God. Yeah, he found a path where Mong doesn't see this. Mong is rotating towards top left. In fact, there's a big group of Lings going towards top left, so I think he's trying to draw him in that direction, and there's no defense here. You know what? This went from I was feeling like Mong was going to be able to take it, now I think SoulKey's going to take it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it takes a long time for mech units to transit. Maybe not vultures, but everything else is pretty damn slow. And so if this can really tear up the main, this is like the great reset button of the game. And even though, normally we see tanks die and, we're not even raising our voices as we see ultras and tanks fighting because it's basically been the whole game, right?
Yeah.
But, if he can destroy enough of the infrastructure, suddenly it really starts to matter again if these tanks are killed off. Unfortunately, this was enough to hold this, so I feel like the main kind of is fine. He basically kept almost all the factories.
Yeah, the factories, always live because you can just lift them if you need to. But, he didn't even supply block it. That's surprising. He killed so many depots in there, too. But I was certain that this was going to be, 130 of 82 or something, where You just look at that and you're like, oh man, you have to make so many depots right now. But yeah, I guess that didn't go as poorly as I thought it was going to with the supply block.
So it may, though, have forced enough of the mech to the right side of the map that causes a defensive imbalance where maybe this stuff can come up to the top left. This one ling, oh my god! Just a couple more lings get up there. If he can take out the tanks in the main base. Oh, there's one ling here.
Yeah, now
Oh,
an
and he
Ultra up
missed.
there as well. So he's going to be able to get both of those siege tanks up there. So now no siege tanks in the top left. This is a wild game that we're looking at.
I can't. Okay, so now he can force the SCVs off. Now I don't know if there's enough reinforcements for Zerg. I mean, I see 2 Ultras, which are actually, there's not sieged units. Like Ultras are pretty good.
There's a lot of lings coming up the map, but some of the reinforcements here from Mong are actually catching them as they go. But tanks without siege mode against cracklings are not the best fight.
Well, he saves the main. Like, you know, it's a funny thing, too, when you get games that are like this. How do I even say? It's just such a massive game. Like, you know, the beautiful thing about StarCraft is there's these moments where it's like, you know, it's a couple lurkers and infantry fighting. Sometimes that decides the game. This is like, you know, World War III here.
Yeah.
Of games. There's so much going. I mean, you almost can't keep track of it all, right? You kind of have to just sort of stay zoomed out here and try to follow all the things on the map. We have now every base has been taken. Resources are drying up, and so really it is going to become a position here at the top left where this is going to be the only resource location on the map that can be mined from. Zerg's got that over there. Zerg is just jumping on top of this mineral only, or not, he's only mining the minerals, but the 3 o'clock spot on the map. But yeah, this is going to be like he who controls the top left controls the universe. That is the spice, Tastosis.
Yeah, this is the only thing that's really left of value other than like 9 o'clock. And like, I mean, SoulKey's doing a good job of breaking in over and over. He's way up in supply. These are like endless lanes coming. Endless.
Yeah.
We just don't have the setup to stop it. And the thing is, if he gets all of his units over there, we could have another drop into the main.
Yeah, that's true. And, you know, all he has to do is keep going back to the hatcheries. I don't think he has to trade efficiently. If SoulKey can keep coming up here. Again, though, these mines are really thinning out these lings. It's kind of crazy. And then you can see just barely, right when the Zerg gets close enough to touch the tanks, the splash damage kind of pulverizes anything that's underneath those shots. But hold on, that one Ultralisk.
The Defiler's hiding under Dark Swarms. More lings coming across the map.
And even though, you know, it can be... All right, that's going to be at GG. I was going to say it can be hard to kind of follow, like, who's ahead. If you look at the supplies, it was 79 supply there for Mong. SoulKey taking down the late-game god, Mong. I got to say, I thought, actually, Mong was going to take that game for a little bit, but I think when SoulKey realized, okay, it's actually all about the top left spot. And keep in mind, there's no factories in the top left, guys, so every factory unit just has to, you know, roll all the way over there. It's hard to set up mines. It's hard to set up siege tanks. It's easy to make lings. If you keep doing it, you can get there. Although I do think there is a reason why we should not see play like that on that map. I think it would probably be better to stick to bio.
Yeah, I would.
Keep
I would
Zerg pressed on
you.
4 base. Sorry, go ahead, Artosis.
Yeah, no, but I definitely would agree with the sentiment. But I think that Mong did a pretty stellar job considering SoulKey's level within this matchup.
Sure.
But let's not forget that part of the reason why he got into such a nice spot was his opener was insanely effective. He lost no SCVs in the 8 racks, and he killed 4 drones. That's a lot. He did really, really well there. But SoulKey battled back tooth and nail, and 40, 45 minutes later, he's the victor, and he goes on to the next round.
Well, I really liked that game. That was a cool way to end this. It goes to show you the potential of a map like that. Like, let's keep in mind, TVZ is not
ASL 시즌
always
24강 F조 경기 모두 만나보셨습니다. 마지막 16강 진출자는 바로 저그 김민철 선수였습니다. 처절한 마지막 최종전을 끝낸 김민철 선수 만나보겠습니다. 축하드립니다.
감사합니다.
와, 정말 숨쉬기도 어려울 정도로 처절하고 정말 치열했던 마지막 최종전 경기였습니다. 마지막 고비 끝에 결국에 승리를 거두고 다시 한번 16강의 무대를 밟게 되셨네요. 김민철 선수. 지금 많이 힘드실 것 같아요.
좀 죽다 살아난 느낌 좀 많이 받고 있어요 지금. 게임 초반만 해도 이 게임 졌다 이 생각으로 좀 거의 반포기 상태로 계속 게임을 했었는데 마지막까지도 사실 승리 장담을 못했었거든요. 마지막에 이제 지지 받아내고 나서야 이제 좀 안심을 한 것 같아요.
처음에 좀 극단적이다 싶을 정도로 드론을 계속해서 뽑아내시면서 굉장히 부유하게 가셨어요. 그래서 김민철 선수 부드럽게 가스까지 잘 채취하고 승리를 할 줄 알았는데 윤찬희 선수의 수비 라인이 김민철 선수의 생각보다 훨씬 더 거셌을 것 같다는 생각이 들었거든요.
저는 근데 게임 내내 진짜 제가 계속 불리하다고 생각을 했고 이 게임을 어떻게 이겨야 되나 생각을 계속 했었는데 차라리 레이트 메카닉을 해줘라 라는 생각을 좀 가졌어요.
네.
그래가지고 오히려 그게 저한테는 더 좋았던 것 같고 만약에 그냥 바이오닉을 계속 했더라면 좀 많이 힘들었을 것 같아요. 게임 자체가.
윤찬희 선수가 레이트 메카닉을 선택하고 결국에 자원줄 싸움으로 계속해서 좀 긴 전투가 이어졌는데 11시 자원줄 싸움이 정말 중요했습니다. 마지막 저글링까지 다 동원하면서 정말 처절하게 밀어내는 모습들이 있었는데 어떤 생각하셨나요?
저도 그게 거의 마지막이었고 이거 아니면 안 된다라는 생각으로 이거 막히면 나도 진다라는 생각으로 계속 퍼부었었는데 테란도 약간 자원이 조금 부족했는지 그게 뚫렸던 것 같아요. 그래서 거기서 이제 승패가 결국 났죠.
네. 보는 저희 입장에서는 오랜만에 김민철 선수 특유의 후반 운영을 좀 볼 수 있어서 굉장히 재밌었습니다. 이제 16강에서 김민철 선수의 경기를 다시 볼 수 있는 좀 재미를 얻게 됐는데 16강의 조가 더 중요하잖아요. 왜냐하면 좀 상위 저그는 피하고 싶다라고 또 말씀을 하셨기 때문에 아직도 그 생각은 유효하신가요? 아무래도 이재동 선수에게 좀 타격을 입었어서
아무래도 근데 이제 16강 가면 저그들이 저를 뽑을 것 같은데 준비를 좀 열심히 해봐야 될 것 같아요. 너무 계속 저그 대 저그전에서 약한 모습을 계속 보여주고 있어가지고 이번 시즌 진짜 꼭 극복을 했으면 좋겠거든요. 극복만 하면은 정말 자신 있는데 저조전이 조금 아쉬운 것 같아요. 열심히 해보겠습니다.
그래도 고무적인 건 탑시드권자 변현재 선수와 또 동문이시더라고요.
네.
네, 좀 뭔가 이야기를 나눌 수 있을 것 같나요, 변현재 선수와?
글쎄요, 그거는 잘 모르겠고 전 솔직히 A조나 B조 들어가고 있기 때문에 그건 잘 모르겠어요.
과연 김민철 선수가 또 16강에 어떤 자리, 어떤 조에 위치하게 될지 많은 분들이 흥미롭게 지켜보실 것 같습니다. 마지막으로 팬분들에게 한 말씀 해주시죠.
오늘 다들 저적저 생각을 많이 했어가지고 정말 불안해하셨을 텐데 솔직히 저도 저그전은 좀 불안하긴 했었어요. 근데 나머지 종족전은 사실 그냥 무조건 올라간다라는 생각을 가지고 있었기 때문에 저그전만 아니면 걱정 안 하셔도 되고요. 그리고 오늘 또 저희 남순 이사장님이 또 응원하고 계시더라고요. 그래서 응원 너무 감사드리고 그리고 매번 응원해주는 여자친구한테도 좀 고맙고요. 다음 16강 이제 잘해보겠습니다.
네, 이번 시즌 역시 김민철 선수의 행보 한번 기대해 보도록 하겠습니다. 진출 축하드립니다.
네, 감사합니다.
자, 이렇게 해서 이번 시즌의 마지막 16강 진출자 김민철 선수와 함께했습니다.
Okay, guys. That is going to be it for Group F. Great games, man. I really liked that last game there. I think we could have some really crazy ones on that map, by the way.
Yeah, it's a big map and really interesting expansion locations and everything. But that does it for the round of 24, and that means that our group nomination will be the next thing coming up. Look at this: 4 Terran, 5 Protoss, 7 Zerg. It seems about right.
That's right. This is pretty exciting. I think especially if you're a Zerg player. I mean, do we have any other Zergs that are not here that are amazing? Like, this is pretty nuts.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I'm trying to think. Like, it basically has everyone, right? Like Hero and Queen, yeah, there they are. Soma and SoulKey, yeah, there they are. Action, Jaedong is back, and then Gameo is kind of like the bonus Zerg.
Yeah,
right?
Gameo's the bonus Zerg, right?
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, Larva's not playing this season, so yeah, that's like the all-star Zerg lineup.
Yeah, and the Terrans, I mean, these are the very best of the best, but so far, tough season for Terrans, but we'll see. I think you know, some of these Terrans could certainly thin out these Zergs. And then with Protoss, I mean, this is like, you know, the 5 gods of Protoss with you know,
Yeah,
Rain
it
being
seems-
back. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's like it's literally the 4 best Terrans. We have basically the 5 best Protoss, but if you could swap out Shuttle for Snow,
Yeah, yeah.
right? And then as far as Zerg goes, it's like the top like 5 or 6, and then Game-O. And it's like, oh wow, this is actually pretty insane.
Yeah, this is fun. And you look, I know I get some hate from people for this, but I kind of like Flash not being here this season. You know, I like that we get to have some tournaments and kind of explore who can come out on top if Flash isn't always the dominant player. And we're going to see how well he plays, you know, when his military service is done. But, you know, it's a tough one to say who's going to win. Artosis, do you have any people you're looking for? For me personally, I'm looking at Jaedong, and I'm very curious about Rain. What about you?
Yeah, I think Rain and Bisu are looking really, really strong right now. I know that the 4 Terran players, again, these are the 4 best Terrans in the world, and they can do anything. They can make my dreams come true, tasteless. So, yeah, and then, of course, like, I think that one guy that we're not talking about that we should be is Hero. Hero, in my opinion, had maybe the most impressive games other than Mini last season. So,
Sure, yeah.
I could definitely see Hero taking. I think he's going to win an ASL in the next few.
I think that's a fair guess. I think he's a bit overdue for that, to be honest.
Yeah.
Guys, that's all the time we have, and that's it for Group F. We are going to have the group selection for you guys translated. Banana Soup has been doing a killer job. Much love to him. And, of course, if you want to support us, Artosis, me, and the people that are producing this end of the ASL event, you can go to patreon.com/ASL English.
That's right. So,
any closing thoughts, Artosis?
No, that's it for the round of 24, guys. We'll be back with that group selection. Thank you much for watching, and we will see you in the round of 16.
ASL 시즌 13 Unlimited.